Chapter 1927. Chen Zhao could feel the life force contained in his small world. It was the purest essence of life force. Chen Zhao started absorbing the life force into his body. He felt that all his cells were filled with power. His skin also started oozing dirt. This wasn't the first time Chen Zhao had cleansed his tendons and veins. This time, Chen Zhao felt like he had been reborn. The life force was continuously reconstructing Chen Zhao's body, reconstructing every part and structure of his body. Just then, a key hidden in his spatial ring suddenly flew out. Chen Zhao saw that he'd gotten this key from Murphy's mother. The key instantly sank into Chen Zhao's body. Then, Chen Zhao's body started disintegrating uncontrollably. Chen Zhao paled in fright. His mind was still very clear, but he couldn't stop the process. The key disappeared after entering Chen Zhao's body. This key was the culprit for disintegrating Chen Zhao's body. In the end, Chen Zhao was only left with his soul and the yin-yang fish in the center of his soul. The surroundings were filled with the bloody mist formed by Chen Zhao's disintegrating body. Suddenly, the bloody mist started gathering toward Chen Zhao's soul again. The reconstruction process was even more thorough than before. The entire process wasn't under Chen Zhao's control. Chen Zhao was just passively enduring the entire process. Chen Zhao had already activated 3 keys. One was the golden key. Its ability was to allow Chen Zhao to evolve under the influence of the environment. The second was the soul key. It allowed Chen Zhao to absorb the soul of his mortal enemy and fill in the flaws of his own soul. At the same time, it made his willpower and spiritual power stronger. The third was the blood-colored key. Of course, it could also be called the God's key. The blood-colored key allowed Chen Zhao to cross the gap between man and God. It allowed Chen Zhao to touch the realm of God. At that time, Chen Zhao understood that each key had a certain ability. It seemed to be able to unlock some kind of restriction in his body. Then what about the fourth key? What effect did it have? What did it mean? The body reconstruction process lasted for a few days. He couldn't do anything in the next few days. He couldn't understand the changes in his body. During this process, Chen Zhao's small world had gathered a large amount of life force. It poured endlessly into Chen Zhao's body. Chen Zhao's body was like a bottomless abyss, greedily devouring every drop of life force. When Chen Zhao's body was reconstructed, he could finally move. He wanted to know what had happened to his body. His speed and strength had all been greatly improved. However, he still didn't understand any substantial changes. What exactly had changed? Finally, Chen Zhao's body and even the small world were full of vitality. He could no longer fuse with any primordial stones. At this time, there was still less than half of the primordial chaos stone left, which was estimated to be about 400 to 500 tons. Chen Zhao was still confused. What had changed about him? Each key had a unique function. After activating the soul key, he didn't understand its effects for a long time. The blood-red key was also activated by accident. He really wanted to know what the function of the fourth key was. Chen Zhao kept trying to see what changes had happened to his body. However, apart from the increase in strength and speed, it seemed that the yin-yang fish had also grown a lot stronger. Chen Zhao calmed himself down and sat back down. The fourth key was activated when the body was reconstructed. This meant that the condition to activate the fourth key was that the body had to undergo a drastic change or mutation. The function of the fourth key was probably related to the body. Something that he didn't understand must have happened to his body. Was the increase in strength and speed related to the fourth key? It might be related to the fourth key. Or maybe it was because he'd absorbed the vitality in the primordial chaos stone. Chen Zhao had an idea. He put away the primordial chaos stone and its powder. After leaving the river map, he immediately called Zhang Tianyi. "Old Zhang, where are you now? I just left your house not long ago. I'm still in the car. Where do you think I am? Come back for a while. I need to talk to you," Chen Zhao said. "You're not trying to kill me, are you? Did I accidentally learn some of your secrets, and you want to kill me to silence me? Stop bullshitting." Chen Zhao was speechless at Zhang Tianyi's strange thinking. A while later, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd came back. "Why?" Zhang Tianyi asked. See if I've changed. Chen Zhao felt that he couldn't feel it because he'd been blinded by his own worldview. As bystanders, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd might be able to see the changes more clearly. Changes? Zhang Tianyi and 23rd studied Chen Zhao seriously. Zhang Tianyi poked Chen Zhao's chest and said in an unhappy tone, "You really have the primordial chaos stone. Your body has strengthened quite a bit." Chen Zhao pushed Zhang Tianyi's finger away. "I'm not talking about that. Do you feel any other changes other than your body becoming stronger? Let me sense, and we'll know." 23rd Jin cast a perception spell on Chen Zhao, but the next moment, he frowned again. "What's wrong?" Perception failed. 23RD's face was full of confusion. "Your body seems to be immune to my perception spell." "My body is absolutely immune to low-level spells," Chen Zhao said. "I'm not using a normal perception spell. I'm using God's vision, an advanced spell. With my power, the effect is 10 times stronger than a normal spiritualist's." Chen Zhao was slightly stunned. He looked at his body. His magic resistance had increased greatly too. In the past, Chen Zhao could only resist spells to a certain extent. Now, he could resist most spells. "Since even God's vision can't work on you, I can't do anything either." Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi shrugged. "I have an idea. For example, give me a few drops of your blood. I'll go back and study it. Maybe I can understand your changes. Then forget it." The last thing a spiritualist wanted was to give a part of their body to someone else. Not even a few drops of blood. Many spells were released through blood. Even though Chen Zhao thought he was very powerful, he didn't dare to take this risk. "Chen Zhao, where did your changes come from? Why do you feel like you've changed?" Chapter 1928. Whatever, it's fine. Chen Zhao wouldn't tell them his secret. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to get an answer from them. He could only slowly explore it himself in the future. After chasing the two away, Chen Zhao started studying again. Unfortunately, he didn't have any clues. Chen Zhao's constitution had improved in all aspects, so he needed another round of adaptation. The improvement in his foundation also led to improvements in other aspects. Giant spirit transformation could replenish more spiritual qi. Moreover, Chen Zhao's clones had finally multiplied from 8 to 16. Avatar was a very special spell because each avatar possessed the full power of the main body. Thus, the stronger Chen Zhao was, the more celestial power he used. Even after learning the complete version of cloning, Chen Zhao had been maintaining 8 clones. Even though his power had increased by who knew how many times, the number of clones didn't increase much. Unless Chen Zhao's original strength was maintained and his celestial power doubled, he wouldn't be able to double the number of clones. After absorbing the life force from the primordial stone, Chen Zhao had improved in all aspects. Even his celestial power had increased greatly. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Chen Zhao glanced at the number. It was Klaus. "Hi, Klaus. President. How are you guys in Africa? It's fun. We live by the river and can fish for crocodiles every day. You're definitely not calling me to report your work, right?" Usually, it was West who reported to Chen Zhao. Klaus rarely contacted Chen Zhao. "Do you remember that I told you last time that I have a normal girlfriend?" "Oh, I do. Teacher, right?" "Yes," Klaus answered. "She just called me and asked if I had money. She wants to borrow money from you? Do you suspect that something's wrong with her?" "No. Before I got together with her, I already investigated her identity. She's just a normal girl." "Then what do you mean?" "I suspect that she's in trouble," Klaus said. If it was just some money, Klaus didn't mind. After all, he had a lot of savings. Klaus was worried that his girlfriend was in trouble. "Got it. Give me your girlfriend's information," Chen Zhao said. "I'll help you take a look." Since the members of the association were out on missions, Chen Zhao naturally had to take care of their families. Chen Zhao called Portia over and told her to watch the baby. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, went straight to Klaus' girlfriend's place. Chen Zhao read a document as he drove. Nellie Wen Lancy, 29 years old, primary school teacher. Nellie Wen Lancy's house was in an ordinary neighborhood. Chen Zhao went to Nellie Wen Lancy's house and knocked. A while later, Nellie Wen Lancy opened the door and looked at Chen Zhao. "Hello, sir. What can I do for you? Hello, I'm a friend of Klaus. He said that you might have some trouble, so I came to see if I can help. Did Klaus summon you? Come in and sit. Nellie Lancey looked at Chun Zhao in surprise. Klaus is in Africa right now. He can't come back for now, so he asked me to come. May I ask if you're in trouble? Nellie Lancey's expression was troubled. Her eyes darted around for a moment before she said, I owe some money. Chun Zhao pushed a check in front of Nellie Lancey. Nellie Lancey was shocked when she saw the number on the check. The money she borrowed from Klaus was 10,000, but the check Chun Zhao pushed over was 1 million. No, it's not that much money. Nellie Lancey waved her hands in fear. It's okay. This money is Klaus's, Chun Zhao said. If you get married in the future, his money will be yours too. We haven't decided yet. Ms. Nellie, can you tell me how you use the money? Chun Zhao asked. I bought a fund, and then I got cheated. How did you get tricked? How they lied to you? Chun Zhao asked again. Nellie Lancey told him the whole story. However, Chun Zhao was a bit confused. Wait a moment. I'm not familiar with finance. I'll get a professional lawyer to come. Chun Zhao called Alex and told her to hurry over. It didn't take long for Alex to arrive. Chun Zhao asked Nellie Lancey to describe what had happened to her. Then, Alex told Chun Zhao about Nellie Lancey's situation. To put it simply, this Miss Nellie Lancey was tricked into buying a fund. The fund hid the total purchase amount and the installment purchase amount. For example, if I ask you to buy a fund, I can tell you that the total purchase amount is only $10,000. In fact, $10,000 isn't the total purchase amount, but the purchase amount for each installment. In other words, she needs to pay $10,000 for each installment. If she doesn't pay for each installment, it means she's in breach of contract. Not only will the purchase amount be confiscated, but she will also have to pay a penalty. You can do that. It was Chun Zhao's first time hearing about such a scam. Ms. Nellie Lancey, where were you when you signed the contract? At my house. Not at their company, right? Oh, yes. Then did you get an explanation of the contract terms when you signed the contract? What do you mean? That is to say, in the key terms of the contract, did you get a professional lawyer to explain the contract terms? No. Does the contract require a lawyer to be present? Alex nodded and turned to look at Chun Zhao. It's a small problem. It's easy to solve legally. These scam companies are full of loopholes. Even if they have the contract, they can easily solve it. However, these companies often threaten and even use violence against the victims. Okay, I understand. You'll be in charge of the legal matters. I'll handle the non-legal matters. Miss Neri, Chun Zhao said, since your personal safety is in danger, I suggest you call Klaus first. Okay. Nellie Lancey immediately called Klaus. Klaus wanted Nellie Lancey to listen to Chun Zhao's arrangements. Ms. Nellie, I'll arrange a safe place for you first, Chun Zhao said. Nellie Lancey nodded. Then she asked, what about my job? You can only ask for leave for now. Chapter 1929. Chun Zhao brought Nellie Lancey to the headquarters. It was empty. Only Aduz, Jigs, and his unconscious wife were here. You can stay here temporarily until Klaus comes back, Chun Zhao said, pointing at the headquarters. As long as it's empty, you can choose any room you want. Aduz ran over. President, who's this? Klaus's girlfriend. She's in some trouble, so she's staying here temporarily. Hello, miss, Aduz said. I'm Aduz, the security guard here. You can tell me if you have any trouble. Nellie Lancey looked at the headquarters before her. She was a bit dizzy. When Chun Zhao brought her here, they'd passed a forest path. She'd been worried that Chun Zhao had evil intentions. However, Chun Zhao hadn't done anything bad to her. As for the headquarters of the association and the tall tower of trials next to the headquarters, they all made her a little confused. Where exactly is this? Miss Neri, Chun Zhao said, I don't plan on restricting your freedom of movement, but if you want to go out, you better inform me. After all, I promised Klaus to take good care of you. Thank you. Then I'll leave first. Aduz, help Miss Neri choose a room. Okay, Miss Neri, please come in. Nellie Lancey followed Aduz into the headquarters. When Nellie Lancey walked into a room, she suddenly saw what was inside through the half-closed door. A man stood in front of a huge container, and inside the container was a naked woman. Ah! Nary when Lancy screamed in fright. Aduz was also shocked. What's wrong? Inside? Inside? Who are you? What are you doing to me? Nary when Lancy thought that Chun Zhao had brought her here to soak her in the container too. At this time, Nellie when Lancy's imagination had already started to run wild and fill in the blanks. Just then, Jiggs opened the door and walked out. Mr. Aduz, who's this lady? She's a family member of one of our members, Aduz said. She might have misunderstood something. Jiggs looked at Nellie when Lancy. Miss, did you see my wife in the healing container and think we're performing some evil ritual? Isn't it? Nellie when Lancy leaned against the wall and stared at Jiggs and Aduz in fear. No, the one inside is my wife. She was injured and is receiving treatment in that container. Nellie when Lancy looked at Aduz and Jiggs with a skeptical gaze. After a moment of hesitation, she plucked up her courage and looked into the room again. At the same time, she also saw some instruments beside the container. One of the screens looked like a heart rate monitor. What happened to her? Jiggs did not want to talk about that nightmarish night. Don't ask. It's not a happy memory for Ziggs. Aduz said, there are empty rooms in the past. You can stay in whichever room you want. Nellie when Lancy chose a room next to Jiggs, and then Aduz left. Nellie when Lancy realized that Aduz indeed had no intention of restricting her movements. He did not even take away her phone. After some thought, Nellie when Lancy decided to call Klaus. This place gave her a strange feeling. She could not tell what exactly was strange. Anyway, Nellie when Lancy just felt strange. Klaus, can you tell me what you do? Your friend, Mr. Chun, brought me to a place called the headquarters. Klaus was silent for a moment before saying, all my secrets are there. You can learn as much as you can. If you know enough, Aduz will tell you about me and the secrets there. I can only tell you that my friend and I aren't bad people. At least, we won't hurt you. If you don't want to stay there, or if you don't want to accept me keeping my secrets, then leave. But before I come back, please accept my protection. Klaus's tone remained calm and unperturbed. Klaus had already considered this when he asked Chun Zhao to do this. Okay, I understand. Nellie when Lancy already understood what Klaus meant. There were some secrets hidden here. It was related to Klaus and the other people here. Klaus would not stop her from exploring this place. Nellie when Lancy first went to Jiggs and Mayev's room. Nellie when Lancy knocked on the door. Hello, can I come in? Jiggs turned to look at Nellie when Lancy. Hello, please come in. When Nellie when Lancy entered the room, the first thing she did was to observe Mayev in the container. Mr. Jiggs, your wife. Are you sure she's fine soaking like this? Jiggs's eyes were lifeless, but his tone was still firm. If you knew about Mayev's previous injuries, you wouldn't have such a question. Even now, there were still many marks on Mayev's body. Why didn't you send her to the hospital? The hospital can't save her. Are you sure it's okay here? I'm sure. Jiggs nodded calmly. It wasn't a pleasant memory. He was even more unwilling to share that night with others. It's dinner time, Jiggs said. Let's go to the restaurant. Is there food here? Everything is provided here. Jiggs smiled faintly. This is their company's headquarters. It's a combination of office and living. When they reached the restaurant, Jiggs said, it's a buffet. Help yourself. So much food? Just the two of us? Aduz eats here too. That's only 3. The food here can feed at least 100 people, right? They're used to it. Oh, right. There's a chef here. They definitely want to eat too. Jiggs was used to this place and knew all the secrets hidden here. In fact, the food was also provided to the people in the dungeon. The food here was good. Nellie when Lancy had a good dinner. I feel like the chef here is better than those big restaurants. Of course the chef here is good. Jiggs smiled. The chef here was an old ghost. Before he died, he'd once been a chef at the White House State Banquet. Jiggs only learned about it later. Just then, Aduz pushed a dining cart over. Nellie when Lancy saw that Aduz had brought a lot of food. He seemed to be sending it somewhere. Is there anyone else here other than us? I don't know, Jiggs replied calmly. Chapter 1930. Chun, I heard from Jerlin that you put sand in our dinner when you went to the kitchen. She must have seen wrongly. Chun Zhao glanced at Jerlin. Right, darling? Feilai rolled her eyes at Chun Zhao and knocked his head. It's fine if you threaten others outside, but you're actually threatening your own daughter at home. I was just wondering why I kept feeling disgusted during dinner. Chen Zhao frowned. Chen Zhao placed a primordial stone on the table. This is what I put in. It tastes bad, but it's full of vitality. It's good for the body. No matter how good it is, it's useless if it can't be digested. I don't want to eat sand for every meal, Fei Lai said in disgust. Fei Lai said with a look of disgust, "Don't put this in our food again." Chen Zhao also didn't think that it was a good idea. If he ate too much, his whole family would get stones. That would be hilarious. Forget it. Let's wait until we find a suitable way to eat it. Chen Zhao didn't force it. Since his family didn't like it, he'd let it go. I'm going out for a while. Business? Yes. Kao's girlfriend was tricked by a group of scammers. I need to deal with it. Alex had already found out who was behind the swindlers. The scammers first used fraud to make the victims lose money. If the victims reacted and called the police, they would harass and threaten them with methods that surpass scammers. They would even use violent methods to hurt the victims or their relatives. It was an extremely evil criminal group. Chen Zhao obtained more information from David. The criminal group had already been blacklisted by the police. It was a key target. However, none of the victims in the past were willing to testify. Therefore, the criminal group had been able to get away with it. Hello, Mr. Chun. I'm Otis. Chen Zhao sat before Otis and shook his hand. Hello. How much do you know about the fund our company launched? I want to know, can your fund really reach 10% annual profit? Of course. I can promise you that our company has many clients who have worked with us for more than 5 years. Those big clients have never backed out. Okay, I want to buy 2 million, Chen Zhao said. All right, no problem. Otis did not show it on the surface, but he was overjoyed. This was a big fish. The moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to buy 2 million USD. And the rarest thing was that this person was an Asian. Even after the incident, a little intimidation would be enough to make him not dare to speak out. Mr. Chun, this is the contract. Please take a look. Otis took out the contract he had prepared. He wasn't afraid that Chen Zhao would see through the contract. Most of the words used in the contract were actually quite convoluted. If one was not a law professional, it would be very difficult to get around it. Not to mention this kind of contract with obvious traps. Even if it was a conventional contract, it would be written in terms that were hard to understand at first glance. Chen Zhao looked at the contract. Why is the purchase amount blank? Mr. Chun, this is because you didn't tell me how much you want to buy, so the purchase amount is temporarily empty. After you sign the contract, we will fill in the purchase amount. Then how can I be sure that you won't write down a random number? Mr. Chun, we're a big company. We won't fill in a random number. I see. Okay then. Chen Zhao signed his name and pressed his fingerprint on it. After confirming Chen Zhao's signature, Otis' smile grew wider. Thank you, Mr. Chun. I believe that we will have a pleasant cooperation. Mr. Chun, how do you plan on paying this money? This is the check. Chen Zhao pushed the check to Otis. When Otis saw the check, his face was full of smiles. But when he saw the name on the back, his expression froze again. Why is a registered check? Isn't that obvious? Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Otis. If it's an anonymous check, I won't be able to get anything. Does Mr. Otis think that there's something wrong with my check? No, nothing. Otis still didn't change his expression. Okay, since we're done with the contract, I'll leave first. Goodbye. Goodbye. Just as Chen Zhao was about to leave, he stopped and turned back to look at Otis. Mr. Chun, is there anything else? I suddenly remembered that you haven't given me the copy of the contract. I almost forgot. Please wait. Otis gave Chen Zhao a copy of the contract. Otis didn't care what Chen Zhao would do after getting the copy. There were far fewer traps in this contract. Almost every clause had a trap. Of course, it would be best if the copy was lost. After Chen Zhao left with the copy, Otis made a call. Otis always liked to use this method for big clients like Chen Zhao. First, he snatched the copy of the contract. As long as the client lost the copy, he had 100 ways to swallow the money. Chen Zhao left the building and called Alex. Alex, I've already signed the contract. Are you sure that I won't lose the money? Of course. I can guarantee that not only will it not be lost, but I'll also make these scammers pay me until they go bankrupt. Okay, then I'll wait for your good news. All right, if they're involved in attacking clients and cause financial or physical damage, will the compensation increase? Sure, but you better provide a diagnosis report. I don't have a diagnosis report, but my sports car will be damaged in the attack. That's fine too, Alex replied. You recorded your conversation just now, right? Yes, it's all recorded. Then it's even better. Chen Zhao drove his sports car past an intersection. Just then, a large truck ran a red light and crashed toward Chen Zhao's car. Chen Zhao glanced at the truck. He didn't try to dodge and just let it hit him. Boom! Chen Zhao's car was sent flying. The truck driver planned to escape. However, Chen Zhao burst the truck's tires and it flipped over at the intersection. Chen Zhao alighted from the now useless sports car. Seeing that the truck driver was unconscious, he took out his phone. Hey, David, I'm in trouble. Chapter 1931. David had brought people over. The first thing they saw was the tragic scene of the car accident. However, when David saw that Chen Zhao was unharmed and that Chen Zhao was carrying a wounded person, he heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Chen Zhao's annoying face, David went up and punched Chen Zhao. Tell me, what's going on? First of all, one of my friend's family members was cheated by a financial fraud company, and then I was also cheated, and I was cheated up to $2 million US. After that group of people cheated me of $2 million US, they planned to kill me. I think you can dig out some useful confessions from them. David stared at Chen Zhao. Were you really tricked? David knew Chen Zhao very well. Chen Zhao would never buy financial products. Chen Zhao never touched things he wasn't familiar with. Finance was exactly what Chen Zhao wasn't familiar with. Looking at Chen Zhao's expression, he wasn't angry at being tricked at all. It was a smile that people would only have when they fell into his trap. Okay, David said. Come with me to record the statement. I'm not the suspect. I'm the victim. You're worse than the criminals. I think I might be injured. I need to go to the hospital for an injury evaluation, Chen Zhao suddenly said, clutching his chest in pain. Are you serious? David couldn't tell if Chen Zhao was serious or not. Chen Zhao's shoulder shook slightly and dislocated. Then he said in a calm tone, if you can submit an injury assessment report afterwards, I can also go back with you directly to make a statement. Do you have a deep grudge against those people? David looked at Chen Zhao with a bitter smile. Chen Zhao stabbed 5 fingers into his chest. David was completely speechless. He'd taken strengthening potions before, so his recovery was many times stronger than normal people's. However, he couldn't hurt himself like Chen Zhao. It's not about hatred. The people who were tricked are my subordinates' families. It's a matter of principle, Chen Zhao said. Also, you don't have to pity them. With their crimes, even the death penalty is not enough. You should be glad that I didn't throw them off the roof. Okay, I understand. But even if you cause the injury yourself, can't you make it more presentable? A finger piercing through the chest, no matter how I look at it, doesn't look like it was caused by a car accident. When he arrived at the police station, he saw that Sharon was still there. Chen, what did you do today? Sharon looked at Chen Zhao with evil intentions. What's the point of us taxpayers paying civil servants like you? Chen Zhao retorted. Usually, whenever I do something small, you'll appear before me. But now, I got into a car accident on the street, and you're nowhere to be seen. Car accident? You don't look hurt. Shalom looked him up and down. Chen Zhao pulled open his collar, revealing the wound on his chest. Look, I'm hurt. Sharon didn't know what was going on and was shocked. How did you get hurt so badly? Why don't you go to the hospital? Just then, David walked in with a document. Don't mind him. He did himself. David didn't avoid Sarah. He took out a document and said, so far, we've found some clues. That big truck was stolen, and the driver who hit your car wasn't the owner, but a gambler. In addition, the company you mentioned can be said to be guilty of many crimes. As long as the gambler is willing to talk, it'll be easy to get someone from that company. The driver isn't willing to talk? That's a bit troublesome. Let me talk to the gambler. You can't use violence against him, David said. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. At least, I won't use violence in the police station. Chen Zhao entered the interrogation room where the driver was. After only 3 minutes, Chen Zhao came out. The driver was a gangster and a gambler, but he was still a normal person. The person he was facing was a spiritualist and a rich one at that. Unless he had 10 times the willpower of a normal person, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Otherwise, it wouldn't be difficult for a spiritualist to make a normal person talk. Intimidation, threats, direct shock, or even magic could easily destroy a normal person's mind. All of them could easily destroy a normal person's mind. Okay, he's willing to talk. David knew that Chen Zhao must have used some unusual methods. So, he didn't ask about the entire process. After entering the interrogation room, David didn't waste too much time either. He'd never interrogated a suspect so smoothly before. The entire process was too easy. The suspect answered all his questions. When he came out, Chen Zhao was sitting at the desk in the police station, chatting with a few police officers. He even proudly showed off his injuries. David was even more speechless. He went up and patted Chen Zhao's shoulder heavily. "David, be gentle. I'm hurt. The guy already told us everything." "Okay, then let's arrest him. Also, my lawyer is almost here." "What? You call the lawyer again?" There were all kinds of enemies in the world. Police and lawyers were undoubtedly enemies too. Lawyers were the last people the police wanted to deal with. "I can't help it. I'm not good at this. It's not your first time either. What I'm good at is letting the professionals handle it." David could only go and arrest them. This time, the evidence was solid, so he didn't have to worry. Moreover, these people were guilty of the most heinous crimes. The police had been meticulously collecting evidence of their crimes. Now that the opportunity was delivered to them, the police had no reason to reject it. Alex came with a group of bandit lawyers. There was a professional term in the legal world, bandit lawyer. It referred to lawyers who liked to exaggerate cases, increase compensation, and increase the number of crimes. This type of lawyer was the bandit lawyer. For example, the Chinese man who'd been dragged off a United Airlines flight 2 years ago had received tens of millions of dollars in compensation and hired a bandit lawyer. Because of that incident, many Chinese people became loyal customers of United Airlines. Even Chen Zhao had gone to apply for a VIP account. They all hoped that they could get the same treatment as the Chinese man and be dragged off the plane. Every law firm had a group of bandit lawyers. Moreover, bandit lawyers had always been loved by their clients. This was because they could always get the most out of their clients. This time, Alex didn't just bring lawyers from her law firm. She also brought some famous bandit lawyers in LA. This was Chen Zhao's request. He didn't care about the price. If he could sentence these people to death, he didn't want a life sentence. Chapter 1932. Otis and all the higher-ups in the company were sent to the police station. They were all still dumbfounded. When Otis saw Chen Zhao, he was clearly stunned. "Mr. Chen, why are you here?" Otis asked, confused. "I was in a car accident. The perpetrator said something that pissed me off." Chen Zhao smiled at Otis. "Mr. Chen, could there be some kind of misunderstanding?" Otis's face darkened. "I don't care if it's a misunderstanding or not. I just need an answer. As long as it's related to this case, I won't let them leave prison alive." Chen Zhao stood up and patted Otis' shoulder. "Just like my old enemy, I don't care how much I spend. I'm willing to spend $1 million or $10 million, or even more. Oh, good luck." After Chen Zhao left, David walked over. "Mr. Otis, you're in big trouble. I'm waiting for my lawyer. He's not here. I refuse to answer any questions." Of course, if the prosecution was a commoner or the police, the lawyer could indeed put a lot of pressure on the prosecution. But now, the prosecution was someone even richer than them. As for the suspect, he had a lot of bad records. The police also had a lot of evidence. In Otis's interrogation room, his lawyer hadn't arrived yet. Chen Zhao's legal team came in. Without saying anything, each of them carried a large number of documents and started reading them before Otis. This caused the atmosphere in the interrogation room to become extremely tense. "Police? Who are they?" "Oh, they're lawyers, but not yours. I haven't received a summons from the court yet. They can't appear here. I want them to leave immediately. If they're here, I refuse to answer any questions." "They're reading the victim's charges," David said, unconcerned. Actually, The lawyers of both parties couldn't meet or interact with the other party's representatives. However, there were too many loopholes in this kind of thing. Mr. Otis, according to our client's request, we're going to sue you. The charges include attempted murder, causing serious injury, intentionally destroying valuable property, huge financial fraud, and inciting others to rob. There's also civil compensation, including our client's financial losses. The total amount is over $200 million. What? You're framing me. Whether it's a false accusation or not is up to the court to decide, the leading lawyer said. I don't have $200 million US dollars. I can't even take out $2 million US dollars. Otis was not the leader of the scam, but one of the higher-ups. Even the head of the fraud group couldn't take out $200 million US dollars. He didn't even have $20 million US dollars. The total amount of money they had swindled was less than $20 million. That's your problem, but we can guarantee that the compensation will be decided. All of your assets will be used as compensation. Even after you get out of prison, you'll have nothing. You can't do this. Police, they're threatening us. Otis panicked. The police will also file a criminal complaint against you. You will be sent to court for second-degree murder, endangering public safety, threatening, and intentional injury, David said indifferently. At this moment, the appointed lawyer arrived at the scene. This lawyer was not Otis's personal lawyer, but a lawyer specially assigned to him by the police. Most of the time, this kind of lawyer was just going through the motions. After seeing the group of people in the room, he understood the situation. This lawyer had already given up on Otis in his heart. For a case like this with concrete evidence, all he could do was follow the procedure. If Otis needed it, he could ask the judge for leniency. That was pretty much all he could do. Of course, considering that it wasn't just the police who filed the lawsuit, it also involved a super tycoon. Then the pleading step could be skipped. With all these crimes added up, even if Otis could get out of prison, it would be 30 years of loss. This lawyer admired Otis. He even scammed a super tycoon. From all the signs, it was obvious that this super tycoon was purposely messing with him. Just the cost of a team of bandit lawyers in the interrogation room was very high. These bandit lawyers were not comparable to a lawyer like him who specialized in public security, procuratorial, and judicial work. Their efficiency and professionalism, as well as their fees, were all 10 times or even tens of times more than a normal lawyer. Of course, as long as they could control the case, the profits would also be high. Since everyone is here, let's start the interrogation, David said expressionlessly. I want them to leave, Otis said as he pointed at the bandit lawyers. The appointed lawyer was in a difficult position. He didn't want to go against these bandit lawyers. The name of the bandit lawyers was notorious in the industry. Of course, compared to their notorious reputation, they were much more professional than their peers. Mr. Otis, are you sure you want to expel us from here? If you insist, I can guarantee that you will never be able to leave prison, the leading lawyer said. You're threatening. You all saw it. You all saw it. Otis yelled agitatedly. The appointed lawyer sighed and said, Mr. Otis, please calm down. The current situation is very disadvantageous to you. I think you should cooperate with them and not fight them. That won't do you any good. What do you mean? Are you my lawyer or not? If you're not satisfied with my work, you can ask for a new lawyer, but it doesn't matter who comes. The plaintiff has already submitted a financial loss report and injury report to the court. The financial loss is more than $200 million US dollars, and that injury report can add at least 3 years to your sentence. At this moment, Otis realized that the entire world was standing against him. Even his lawyer was the same. He had no intention of helping him at all. If I cooperate, what can I get? At least you won't die in prison, the leading lawyer said. Cough, cough. David coughed. Shun Zhao's legal team was too explicit with their words. From what I know, the plaintiff's assets are more than $10 billion, David said. I think you should cooperate. Chapter 1933. Shun Zhao had already gone home. There was basically nothing for him to do here. Anyway, Chun Zhao would let Alex handle everything. Anyway, Chun Zhao's request was for every main member of the scam to go to jail for 20 to 30 years. He would also squeeze all of their assets dry. Everyone said that evil people would be tortured by evil people. Chun Zhao didn't mind being that evil person. The next day, Chun Zhao received a call from Otis. Otis wanted to talk to him. After one night, Otis probably understood something. Would a super rich person buy a $2 million fund? It was obviously impossible. Chun Zhao was clearly coming for them. The more Otis thought about it, the more afraid he became. Otis was going to be transferred to the prison in his district today. So, he wanted to meet Chun Zhao now. He wanted to find out more or make some deals. When Chun Zhao saw Otis, he no longer had any shrewdness. He looked at Chun Zhao with haggard eyes. "Mr. Chun, I want to know if we've offended you in any way." Chun Zhao smiled. "My subordinate's family bought a fund from you. Unfortunately, my subordinate isn't an L, so I have to take care of this." Otis was helpless. "Who's your subordinate's family? I can refund him the money." "It's too late. When I got involved, I didn't plan on resolving this peacefully." Smiling, Chun Zhao looked at Otis. "You and your accomplices must go to jail." Chun Zhao was confident, but he wouldn't tell Otis who Neri Wenlancy was. Otis' face darkened. Gritting his teeth, he said, "Mr. Chun, do you have to make it so ugly? Are you threatening me that you have the power of the underworld? If it's violence, that's what I'm best at. Trust me, you have no chance of winning. Mr. Chun, you have family, right?" Chun Zhao looked at Otis. "Do you?" Otis didn't speak. Clearly, he realized that he'd said something stupid. "Okay, cooperate with the police. If you can get away with it within the scope of the rules, then I have nothing to say. But if you think that violence can solve the problem, I don't mind competing with you in violence." Chun Zhao stood up. "If you think threatening me with my family works, then I can have my family follow 10 or 20 bodyguards. But what about your family? Do you have that much money?" Otis' face paled. He realized that he really couldn't do anything to Chun Zhao. Nellie Wenlancy stretched her body. The conditions here were indeed very good. Not only was the food and accommodation good, but the environment was also quite good. Nellie Wenlancy walked around the place yesterday. She was a little confused about what this place was for. There was some equipment here, and it looked like a research facility. There were also warehouses and workshops. Nellie Wenlancy got up to wash up and change. At this time, the sound of a car came from outside the window. The sound of Chun Zhao's sports car was quite loud. Nellie Wenlancy went downstairs to welcome him. "Hello, Miss Neri. Mr. Chun, you can call me Wenlancy." "Okay, you can call me Chun too, or you can call me President like Klaus does," Chun Zhao said. "President? Then what exactly is this place for?" "You can ask Klaus if you have any questions," Chun Zhao said. "You just need to know that Klaus and I aren't doing anything illegal. If it's not illegal, why do you have to be so mysterious? Klaus will have to explain that to you too." Chun Zhao entered the headquarters, and Nellie Wenlancy followed behind. Chun Zhao went to Jig's room. Jiggs had been sharing a room with Maiev. It was convenient to take care of her. When Chun Zhao knocked on Jig's room, Jiggs had just woken up. "Mr. Chun." "Yes, Maiev needs to change her water. Also, I need to give her a checkup." "Okay." Chun Zhao and Jiggs started operating the equipment. In the past few days, Jiggs had gradually familiarized himself with how to use the equipment. "Do you need my help?" Nellie Wenlancy asked. "No, just the two of us are enough." After the equipment was turned off, Chun Zhao and Jiggs lifted Maiev out of the container. Nellie Wenlancy watched from the side. "Mr. Chun, are you a doctor?" "Yes, but I don't have a license," Chun Zhao said. "Mr. Chun, Maiev opened her eyes yesterday," Jiggs said. "Did you talk to her?" "I'm not sure if she's awake. Her injuries are basically out of danger now. You don't have to soak her in the container anymore. As for her psychological problems, you'll have to help her." During this period of time, Jiggs had personally witnessed Maev's unrecognizable body gradually recovering from its previous state. Some obvious injuries were also recovering during the soaking. Therefore, he had absolute trust in Chun Zhao now. After checking Maev's injuries, Chun Zhao met Jig's gaze. After a moment of silence, he said, "She should have woken up a few days ago, but she doesn't want to talk. Or rather, she doesn't want to face reality." "Then what about now?" Chun Zhao nodded. Maev was actually awake right now. Jiggs couldn't control his emotions anymore. He knelt by the window. "Maev, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's all because of my uselessness. Let's go out first. You guys talk. After Chan Zhao and Nellie Lancey walked out of the room, they could hear people talking inside. A moment later, Jiggs hurriedly ran to Chun Zhao and Nellie Lancey. Miss Neri, can I borrow a set of your women's clothes? Huh? Of course. A while later, Jiggs helped Maiev to Chin Zhao. Maiev's injuries were 80% healed. The only problems now were the scars on her skin and her psychological trauma. Maiev's face was pale. After all, she'd been soaking in the water for almost 20 days. Her limbs were also very weak. Actually, she'd woken up earlier than Chun Zhao had expected. Mr. Chun, thank you for saving me that night. Maiev's voice was weak. I'm sorry that I couldn't get there earlier that day. No, it's not your fault. No one could have predicted that. It's my fault. I couldn't protect Maiev well. Maiev, I can call you that, right? Of course. Maiev nodded slightly. As an outsider, I still hope that you can let go of the past. Jiggs has been watching over you without rest. It's not a beautiful memory, but it's not enough for you to ruin your life. Chapter 1934. Chun Zhao wasn't someone who knew how to comfort others. He only felt sympathy for Maiev. He didn't have much personal feelings for her. That was all he could say. Plus, he wasn't that familiar with Maiev. Hearing Chun Zhao's words, Maiev nodded slightly. Nellie Lancey didn't know what exactly had happened. But looking at Maiev's injuries, she could more or less understand how hurt she was. Jiggs, I'll prescribe some medicine for Maiev. Some for oral use, and some for external application. You'll be in charge of applying the medicine on Maiev. Also, if there are any changes in Maiev's condition, you can call me. Okay, got it. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving, Chun Zhao said. Miss Neri, Maiev has just recovered. Can you accompany Maiev for a while? Sure, no problem. Oh, right. Ms. Lancey, your problem has been solved. Those people will go to jail soon. You should get your money back soon. Nellie Lancey was surprised that Chun Zhao had solved the problem so quickly. Nellie Lancey could tell that they weren't bad people. Aduz helped Maiev find a wheelchair. Nellie Lancey pushed Maiev for a walk beside the man-made lake. The scenery here is really good, but the weather these 2 days is a bit bad, Nellie Lancey said regretfully. If the weather is good, it'll be even more beautiful. There's never a good day here, Maiev said. Maiev, let bygones be bygones. Nellie Lancey thought that Maiev was hinting at her feelings. I'm serious. The weather here has always been like this. Haven't you always been? I've been awake for more than 10 days. Every day, Jiggs opens the curtains and windows to let in fresh air. It hasn't rained in the past 10 days, right? I don't remember having more than 10 consecutive cloudy days. That's the only cloudy days I'm talking about. Nellie Lancey looked up and realized that the dark clouds in the sky were indeed only covering the nearby area. They didn't cover a large area. Weird, Nellie Lancey murmured in confusion. What's this phenomenon? It's not natural. Then what? If I said it was controlled, would you believe me? Miss Maiev. Nellie Lancey wondered if Maiev was mentally unstable. Otherwise, why would he say such illogical words? Do you think I'm insane? No. Nellie Lancey quickly denied. It's natural for you to think that way. Normal people wouldn't take my words seriously. Nellie Lancey looked at Maiev in confusion. Maiev's words weren't messy, but rather clear. Although I've been unconscious all this time, I wasn't actually sleeping, Maiev said. Nellie Lancey was even more confused. Maiev's words always sounded mysterious. Not sleeping? What are we going to do then? I'm listening to all the sounds here. There are many secrets hidden here. I still don't understand. I didn't understand it at first, Maiev said. Mr. Chun said that there are many secrets here. Let's go back to the headquarters. The wind here is a little cold. Okay. Back at the headquarters, Maiev suddenly said, there's an elevator over there. Nellie Lancey didn't understand, but she still followed her request and pushed Maiev to the elevator. What's wrong with this elevator? This is the elevator to the basement. Basement? Yes. Curious, Nellie Lancey pushed Maiev into the elevator. And then? Lower 3 floors. When they reached the 3rd floor, the elevator door opened. Nellie and Lancy realized that there were people down there. There were many glass houses here, too. A dozen of them had people locked inside. Nellie and Lancy was shocked. What's going on? Who are they? Prisoners. Mr. Chen's prisoners. Nellie and Lancy gulped. Would she encounter any danger after entering this place? If Chen Zhao knew that she was here, would he lock her up too? Or was it to silence them? Are you scared? Mayev asked softly. This is illegal detention, right? Nellie and Lancy asked uncertainly. These people aren't under the protection of the law, Mayev said. Nellie and Lancy pushed Mayev to a glass house and looked at the prisoner inside. The prisoner was an old man. He glanced at the two women outside and then calmly lay back on the bed to watch TV. The glass house wasn't bad. It wasn't big, only a dozen square meters, but there was an independent bathroom. There was also a single bed, a single sofa, a table, and a TV hanging on the wall. Nellie and Lancy also realized that the book on the table had strange words on the cover. She actually couldn't recognize which country it was from. All the prisoners here were very calm. Some of them didn't even bother to look at the two women outside. Who are they? Nellie and Lancy asked. When Nellie and Lancy pushed Mayev past a room, she suddenly saw a man standing in the floor-to-ceiling window. The man's eyes were lifeless and had dark circles around them. He looked like he hadn't slept in decades, but he kept staring at Nellie and Lancy and Mayev. Nellie and Lancy was a bit dazed. She stared at the man inside. Ah! Nellie and Lancy suddenly felt pain on the back of her hand. Mayev had pinched her hand. Don't stare at his eyes. Just then, a white-haired old man in the next room said, Are you new people? What happened to me? Nellie and Lancy didn't understand, but she also felt that something was wrong. She'd actually stared at a strange man's eyes for so long. Off it, you're too meddlesome. I almost succeeded. The man who'd almost bewitched Nellie and Lancy with his eyes said unhappily, Don't you want to escape? I'm different from you. We'll only be locked up here for 3 years. It's already been half a year. If you escape from here without permission, you'll have to face that man. Do you really think you can escape from here? I can't beat him, but as long as I leave this room, no one can stop me no matter where I go. Chapter 1935. Offit glanced at the two women outside the glass room. This isn't a place you should be. Offit was in a good mood. After all, she and her partner weren't sentenced to life imprisonment. Let's go, Neri. It's indeed dangerous here. Aren't they locked inside? Why is it dangerous? Even if they're locked inside, they're still dangerous. The glass could block most attacks, but these people weren't normal people. The consequences of underestimating them were severe. Even Mayev only understood a little. Mayev didn't know what situation she was in either. She could hear everyone's conversation in the entire headquarters. Of course, that included the people in the dungeon. It seemed that the barriers of the buildings and distance didn't work on her at all. But that was as far as she could go. She could hear them when she was unconscious. But at that time, she'd unconsciously accepted the sounds outside. It was also these sounds that had woken her up. After waking up, she was more subjective in her selection of sounds. She could control herself to only listen to a certain sound. As long as it was within a certain range, she could hear everything. She also found out from the conversation between the members of the supernatural organization. There was a spiritual world in this world that she didn't know or understand. She seemed to be a member of the spiritual world too. Of course, she'd also heard about Chen Zhao, whether it was the members of the organization or the people in the dungeon. When they talked about Chen Zhao, there was only one topic. Scary. This was the topic she'd heard the most about Chen Zhao. At the same time, she also knew that Chen Zhao wasn't as kind as he seemed. Just then, the elevator door opened again. Aduz pushed the food cart in. When he saw Mayev and Neri and Lancy, he only nodded. Aduz didn't say anything else regarding their appearance here. After all, Chen Zhao had told him to let them go wherever they wanted. Mr. Aduz, hello. Neri and Lancy was still a bit nervous. She knew nothing about this place or the people here. Hello, Aduz said. It's not very safe here, so it's best not to come down. Mr. Aduz, why are they locked here? As a normal woman, Neri and Lancy still couldn't understand this. After all, whether it was from a moral or a legal perspective, this was not allowed. They did bad things. That's why they're locked up here. But can you detain people at will? Not necessarily. Only under certain circumstances, Aduz said calmly. They are all under certain circumstances. Aduz leisurely distributed lunch to everyone in the glass house. Then he walked up to Maiev. Lady Maiev, can you see them? Yes. Maiev knew what Erdos was talking about. Aduz had 2 wraiths with him, and they were talking to each other. Maiev wasn't surprised by this at all. Back upstairs, Nelly Winlancey asked impatiently. Maiev, Aduz asked you who you could see just now. That is the biggest secret here, and I happen to know it. Surface secret? You still don't understand? Understand what? Everyone here is not an ordinary person. Maiev said, also, there are far more people here than you see. There are others who will make your hair stand on end. I still don't understand. Wraiths, just like what you think. There are a lot of wraiths wandering around here. Stop joking. Nelly Winlancey's expression was stiff. Maiev didn't sound like she was joking. That's what Aduz asked me just now. He asked me if I could see the wraiths wandering around him. Are you serious? Of course. Nelly Winlancey was skeptical about Maiev's words. After all, she couldn't accept it immediately without seeing it with her own eyes. Also, Maiev's emotions weren't stable. Nelly Winlancey couldn't be sure if Maiev was normal. Then why can you see him, but I can't? I heard people here say that the awakening of a witch is divided into life and death trials. I might have awakened because I passed one. What's a life and death trial? I'm not too sure about that. Everything I know is from the conversations of the people here. Maiev paused. But the first inhuman I saw wasn't the wraiths here. It was Mr. Chun. Mr. Chun? He's not human. Nelly Winlancey asked in surprise. He's human, but he's not an ordinary person. Maiev fell silent again. After a while, Maiev said again, a group of armed bandits broke into my house. Then Mr. Chun came and killed them all alone, saving my husband and I. I was heavily injured, but I could still hear the bandit screams. But he's not a cop. When I was in danger, it wasn't the police who came to save me. So you're saying that there's some kind of unconventional organization here? More accurately, it's a paranormal organization. This place is called the Supernatural Organization, and Mr. Chun is the leader of the organization. But I still don't see him. Because you're an ordinary person, Maiev said. You said you're an awakened witch. So other than seeing wraiths, what else can you do? Me? What can I do? Maiev fell into deep thought. She didn't know any magic yet, but subconsciously, she believed that she was more than that. He could receive a lot of sounds, so his magic power was most likely related to sound. Maiev opened her mouth slightly. She realized that she could actually make super high-frequency sounds. Humans couldn't hear them at all. Maiev looked at the glass window in front of her. The high-frequency sound shot toward the glass. Crack! The glass window shattered at the sound of the noise. Do you see the cracked window? That's what I did. You did? How did you do that? Nelly Winlancey still didn't want to believe it. After all, seeing was believing. Look carefully at the glass next to you. Maiev opened her mouth again. Maiev felt that her abilities weren't limited to this. So this time, Maiev raised her voice. Crack. A crack appeared on the second piece of glass as well. Moreover, the cracks on the glass window were very dense. Do you see it? Nelly Winlancey saw the crack with her own eyes. She couldn't help but rub her eyes. She still couldn't believe it. Chapter 1936. The glass, which hadn't cracked a moment ago, was now covered in cracks. But now, she had doubts again. Did Maiev really do this? Or was there a device on glass? Nelly Winlancey looked at Maiev in confusion. Is this the magic you're talking about? It's different from what I imagined. In Nelly Winlancey's imagination, magic was the kind of dazzling and colorful things in movies and TV shows. She had to admit that Nelly Winlancey's thought was surprisingly similar to Chun Zhao's. But in reality, most magic wasn't colorful. It wasn't that it couldn't achieve the effect, but light and shadow also needed energy. This meant that the effect would weaken. So, unless it was necessary, there wouldn't be any beautiful effects. Most of the time, the so-called dazzling effects were produced by the construction of magic arrays. But Neriwan Lancy and Maiev didn't understand this. What a magical power. This is my first time using it. Maiev looked at her thin hands. Maiev tried a few more times, but it wasn't pure magic. But even so, Neriwan Lancy was already stunned by what she saw. She finally believed that there were things she didn't understand in this world. Are there really a lot of spirits around? Neriwan Lancy asked. Maiev nodded. A lot. Will they attack us? No. They're also members of the Supernatural Association, Maiev said. Their leader should be a spirit called Pamela. Neriwan Lancy still shuddered. So that's the secret Klaus was hiding. Klaus touched his nose and held the phone. Do you know? Yes, I know. On the other end, Neriwan Lancy said, I saw an unimaginable power. Who showed it to you? There shouldn't be anyone else in the headquarters apart from the president, right? Did he show it to you? No. Do you remember Maiev? Oh, the injured woman? Klaus was dazed. Is she awake now? Yes, I do. Neriwan Lancy heard some noise on the other end. Klaus, what are you doing? Roar. I'm saying I'm fighting. Do you believe me? Fighting? With whom? Not human, Klaus said. Then am I disturbing you? It's okay. It's not time for us to appear yet. Klaus held the phone between his shoulders as he paid attention to the battlefield. Although the battlefield was constantly changing, Klaus and the people from the Supernatural Organization were at the back, so the battle at the front didn't affect them. Then you go ahead. Call me back when you're free. Neriwan Lancy did not dare to delay Klaus. All right, I'll call you later. Klaus hung up. What's wrong? Nami asked. It's nothing. Klaus shook his head and returned his attention to the battlefield. At this moment, the battlefield was shrouded in darkness. However, there was an instrument in front of them. The instrument had many red and white dots. There were fewer red dots, about 100 or so, while there were many white dots, reaching tens of thousands. Mr. West, when do we attack? Klaus asked. There's no rush. Even if we kill 100 normal spirit beasts, they won't be worth as much as one leader spirit beast. So, rather than wasting magic power on normal spirit beasts, we might as well choose the right time. The white dots on the instrument were spirit beasts, while the red dots were human spiritualists. However, human spiritualists were clearly stronger than spirit beasts, and the number of spirit beasts far exceeded the humans. It was hard to say who was stronger, because both sides were preserving their strength. As long as the spirit beasts were killed, they would turn into spirit light. More and more spirit light appeared in the air, almost lighting up the entire battlefield. At this moment, two gigantic spirit beasts appeared from the back of the battle line. The two huge spirit beasts were leader spirit beasts. They did not enter the battlefield directly. Instead, they opened their mouths and started to devour the spirit light released by their dead comrades. They're here. West stared at the two leader spirit beasts. On the other side of the battlefield, the guardians and managers stood on high ground. They were also looking down at the battlefield. Sivir clenched her fists. Irene Horton sat lazily on the ground. These invited spiritualists don't seem very strong, a girl in red said. The girl in red, Rose Twilight. She was a genius girl, known as the most outstanding genius of the new generation. She was even more outstanding than the Scarlet Church's 25th generation Blood Mary. She came from a famous magic family in Europe, the Twilight family. Since she was 8, she could already carry out difficult missions on her own. The real experts haven't attacked yet, the man standing at the front said. The man standing at the head of the table said. He was the only manager recognized by the Nature Guardian, and he was also the one who could borrow the most draconic power. His name was Malin, and in ancient Greek, Malin meant Titan, and he indeed had the blood of a true Titan. It was precisely because of the Titan's bloodline that he was able to withstand such a huge amount of dragon power. And after his Titan power merged with the dragon power, he could almost reach 30% of a real dragon's power. Experts? Really? A white-bearded old man wearing thick reading glasses said. The white-bearded old man was called Sarah. He was originally a volunteer for ecological protection. He was seriously injured in an accident and was saved by the witch doctor of a local tribe. That tribe worshipped the poisonous dragon. They saw the poisonous dragon as their god. Then, the white-bearded old man accidentally received the poisonous dragon's recognition and was given new power. He also became one of the 6 guardians of order. Yes, Sivir said. 2 days ago, he single-handedly defeated the speed-enhanced type spiritualist hiding in the gathering area. He's very powerful. Strange. Why hasn't he done anything yet? Sivir was originally an ordinary witch. She was different from the others. She didn't have extraordinary knowledge, a strong family background, or outstanding talent. But she was the only one who accepted the Guardian's test and passed. So she also became one of the 6 Guardians of Order. Just then, the sky above the battlefield suddenly lit up. It was very, very bright, as if it was daytime. A girl floated in the air with one hand raised high. Her raised palm was holding a small sun with a diameter of 10 meters. Chapter 1937. The little sun lit up the entire battlefield. Little sun? That's from the Holy Fire sect? Malone stared at the little sun in shock. This spell was too iconic. The little sun was a spell unique to the Holy Fire sect. It wasn't something normal people could come into contact with. Sivir looked at Jocelyn and Nash in surprise, even though they were far away. She was far away, but she could still see Jalanash clearly. She hadn't talked to Jalanash before, but she still remembered that Jalanash was from the Supernatural Organization. She came from North America. Magri Modric was also on the battlefield. He looked up at the little sun in the sky. This spell was stolen from him by the Supernatural Organization. Therefore, when he saw this spell, his heart could be said to be filled with mixed feelings. Jalanash's spell was even more powerful than his. It was obvious that Jalanash's magic power was much higher than his. Jalanash looked down at the battlefield from above. She needed to estimate where the little sun would land. If she threw it at the center of the battlefield, she could achieve the greatest result. But at the same time, it would also affect their comrades. There is no such thing as sacrificing oneself for the greater good on the battlefield. No one wanted to sacrifice themselves here. So, if she threw the little sun down, she would basically offend half of the spiritual world. Jalanash didn't want to cause trouble for the Supernatural Organization. Not only did the people on the battlefield see the little sun in the sky, 2 chief-level spirit beasts appeared at the edge of the battlefield. They also saw the little sun and Jalanash. One of the leader-level spirit beasts opened its mouth wide. It started charging, gathering the spiritual light it had just absorbed in its mouth. This move was very similar to Chun Zhao's Holy Light Cannon. But the chief-level spirit beast took a longer time to charge. Of course, it was more powerful too. Chun Zhao's Holy Light Cannon could be fired at any time. But the power was limited and the range was only a few dozen meters. But the chief-level spirit beast had already started charging from 2,000 to 3,000 meters away. Oh no, Sivir said anxiously. That girl released such a large-scale spell in the air. She's an open target. They were 2 to 3 kilometers away from the center of the battlefield. They couldn't save her in time, even if they wanted to. She must have never fought against spirit beasts before, so she doesn't understand their characteristics and abilities. Malone said, what a pity. If she hadn't been so reckless, she would have become an outstanding warrior. Jocelyn and Nash also realized that they were being targeted. However, she was not anxious about this, because her companion was nearby. At that moment, Wes said to Helis, Helis, go protect Jalanash. No problem. Helith leaped up. There was a black cloud under her feet. This black cloud was the aura of death. This was a new method that Helis had come up with after returning from Norway. Just like the immortals of China, they stepped on the clouds and chased after the stars and the moon. She also became another member of the association who could fly after Gaia, Norma, Jolene, and Nash. Helis came to Jalanash's side. Jalanash was still forming a small sun. However, it was not strenuous for her. Under the influence of the fire dragon's calamity, Little Sun's consumption of magic power was halved and its power doubled. Fire dragon calamity was created from the heart of a fire dragon. Its amplification of fire-type magic reached a shocking level. Helis, the black cloud under your feet, is really interesting. Just then, the distant leader-level spirit beast fired its mouth cannon. A beam of white light broke through the night sky and headed straight for Jalanash. It's over. Malone shook his head. That girl might be able to block that attack in her normal state, but in her current state, she probably won't be able to escape. The others around Malone had the same expression on their faces. Of course, they hoped to have more powerful helpers. The stronger the better. However, they hadn't expected something like this to happen. Just then, a black cloud enveloped Jalanash. Apart from the small sun's light that could still penetrate the black cloud, she couldn't see anything else. The strong beam of light shot into the black cloud and disappeared without a trace. It didn't penetrate the black cloud, nor did it cause an explosion. It was as if nothing had happened. Helis' aura of death had the ability to absorb energy. Of course, the aura of death had a limit. If it exceeded the limit, the aura of death would directly dissipate. However, there was no need to worry about this battle. The two leader-level spirit beasts weren't that powerful. Just then, the black cloud suddenly spread out. The small sun didn't shrink. Instead, it grew larger. Malone and the others were all shocked. Necromancer. One had to say that this battle was full of surprises. And the surprises came one after another. Siber's expression was one of shock. She had originally thought that the supernatural organization from North America only had an elite, no matter how powerful they were. In such a large area, one or two experts wasn't enough to shock her. But then, Jalanash and Helis' appearance shocked her once again. At the same time, Jalanash finally finished preparing her spell. The small sun shone brightly like a real sun. It felt like a mountain. However, the small sun didn't fall vertically. Instead, it pointed diagonally at the two leader-level spirit beasts. The spirit beasts on the battlefield could feel the sun's light. Their strength was suppressed by at least 20%. Even though it didn't hit directly, just the light alone was enough to change the tide of the battle. Rumble, the small sun finally fell to the ground. In that instant, the earth shook. Destructive shockwaves swept in all directions. Magri Modrich's expression completely froze. This spell was passed down from his hands. But why was it in Jalanash's hands that it displayed miraculous power? At the place where the little sun had landed, everything within a radius of 1,000 meters was obliterated. Everyone stopped what they were doing, even those who were fighting. The destructive power scared everyone, including Jalanash. Helis looked at Jalanash. Your spell is so destructive. Even if Helis' death spell was 100 times stronger, it couldn't reach Jalanash's level. It's not my power. Jalanash shook her head. It's the power of the fire dragon disaster. The fire dragon disaster contains a huge amount of fire elements. As my spell is released, it attaches to it. It will take at least 3 days for me to unleash such destructive power again. Chapter 1938. Jalanash landed on the ground. Wes walked up and asked, "Did you kill it?" "One dead and one injured," Jalanash said. Hell AIs is dealing with the aftermath. Not long after, Helios returned in less than 10 minutes. "How was it?" "Done," Hell AIs said calmly. "It's just a small fry, and it was heavily injured by Jalanash. If I can't deal with it, it'll be too embarrassing." As for the others, they went to participate in killing the spirit beasts. After losing their leader, the spirit beasts started retreating one after another. It seemed like other than the two leader spirit beasts, they had other commanders. The retreating spirit beasts were no longer a threat. Some of the weaker spirit controllers could now slaughter the spirit beasts without any worries. The supernatural organization had killed the two spirit beasts themselves, so they definitely had the most achievements. However, killing some small fries would also allow the association members to vent their anger. At this moment, Magri Modric arrived at the area where the association members were fighting. He was worried about being misunderstood, so when he got close, he deactivated the protective spell. After all, they were on the battlefield and the situation was very chaotic. Many times, because of nervousness, they might hurt their own people. Therefore, every organization and force basically had their own territory. No one interfered with each other in case they were misunderstood. If they wanted to get close to someone else's territory, the first thing they had to do was remove their own defensive spell to show their sincerity. Magri Modric came to the area around the members and slowed down. Mr. West, hello. Hello, Mr. Magri. This is a battlefield. It's not a good habit to run around. Magri Modric's gaze searched around and finally landed on Jalanash. Hello, Miss Jalanash. What is it? Jalanash wasn't very willing to talk to Magri Modric. Magri Modric wasn't weak at all, but Jalanash just couldn't stand Magri Modric. Last time, Magri Modric had brought people to cause trouble for them. If they hadn't agreed to let them go, everyone, including Magri Modric, wouldn't be alive now. Miss Jalanash, was the spell you just used really little sun? To be honest, the power of that little sun was beyond imagination. Magri Modric felt that Jalanash must have found a trick. That was why he decided to come over and learn from Jalanash, to see if he could get any tips. Everyone immediately understood Magri Modric's intentions. You don't have to think about it. That's the amplification effect of a magic tool. Jalanash's answer was within Modric's expectations. Even if Jalanash was stronger than him, she couldn't be more than 10 times stronger. Therefore, it was acceptable if it was enhanced by magic tools. But even so, Magri Modric still felt that this group of people really shouldn't be offended. These organizations that came from the magic desert were all extremely strong. Modric didn't want to clash with such a powerful organization. Right at this moment, a few obviously powerful auras spread over. The owners of these auras had deliberately released their auras in order to warn the crowd of their arrival. Then, a huge carpet fell from above their heads. There were 7 people standing on the flying carpet. Everyone knew one of them. It was Sivir. After the 7 people got off the flying carpet, it turned into a cloak and returned to the back of one of them. Malone led the way to the people from the association. Hello, I'm Malone, also the manager of the gathering area. Hello, we're from North America, the Supernatural Organization. There's such a powerful supernatural organization in North America. Malone sounded like he was asking, but also like he was doubting. Perhaps he felt that the supernatural organization was a disguise. Of course, everyone just smiled and didn't say anything. No one had the obligation to answer questions from unrelated people. Everyone, after the battle, there will be a gathering in the gathering area. Would you be interested in joining? We're very tired. We need to rest. West tactfully rejected Malone's invitation. Are you here for the Nature Guardian's promise or the Scarlet Church's mission? Malone asked. West's heart jumped. The Nature Guardian's promise? He really didn't know about this. But on the surface, West still pretended to be nonchalant. Both. Malone smiled. Since both are available, why reject my invitation? I'm the Nature Guardian's representative. I can provide you with more useful information. Mr. Malone, if you think there's value in cooperating with us, we can choose another time. We really need a rest. After all, this battle isn't easy. They definitely couldn't show him patience now. West was such a smart person. How could he let others have the upper hand? Of course, this was a sign of their confidence. They weren't worried that Malone would abandon them. Their strength was there for all to see. Thus, to maximize their benefits, they definitely couldn't be impatient now. The battle was already coming to an end. The spirit beasts either escaped or were killed. Other than the sporadic battles, most spiritualists had basically stopped. Magri Modric glanced at the people from the supernatural organization. He realized that Jolene and Nash were the only people from the supernatural community who had actually acted. The others had more or less attacked, but they looked more like they were having fun and relaxing. For example, the people who left a deep impression on him, Angelit, Gaia, Norma, and Heliais. They didn't attack and stayed by West's side. The few people who did it were just casually casting a few spells. How strong was the supernatural organization? But Malone and the others clearly didn't know. The people of the association reorganized themselves a little before bidding farewell to Ma Long and leaving. Malone, are we just letting them leave? It's fine. They're dragging it out because they want more benefits. As long as they can guarantee victory in this battle, I don't mind promising them some benefits as long as they show enough strength. They're not the only powerful supernatural organization in the gathering area. Now isn't the time to care about this, Malone said. If the other organizations are powerful, I'm willing to contact them. The monster army is far stronger than what we see now. Chapter 1939. The next day, Marlin brought the 6 managers to contact West again. Mr. West, you don't seem to be willing to contact us. Can you tell me why? Marlin went straight to the point. Do you have some misunderstanding about us? Or do we do something to make you feel uncomfortable? No, West said. I'm keeping my distance from you because we have different goals. Your goals are very pure and noble, while ours are much more complicated. Our main goal is profit. To West, Marlin and the others looked more like volunteers for a public cause. They were respectable, but not many people would support them. West's words were clear. They were here because there was a profit to be made. They would use their own abilities to accumulate enough merits and then exchange them for benefits from the Scarlet Church. To put it more bluntly, everyone had different goals. But Mr. West, you haven't even contacted us before. Why are you so sure that we can't pay you enough? Marlin smiled at West. Then what can you give us? Did you know that there used to be 12 nature guardians on this continent? The current guardian is Lord Boyd. Our ancestors slept here. Their remains are still preserved, including their dragon balls, eyes, bones, and hearts, Marlin said. Malone said, if you can help, then Sir Boyd can take out a portion of the Dragon Guardian's remains as a reward. West couldn't quite accept this deal. It was like Chun Zhao was the president of the supernatural organization. After Chun Zhao passed away one day, the younger generation of the organization would use Chun Zhao's remains as a bargaining chip in order to receive some help. Whether Chun Zhao was willing or not aside, even if he was, West couldn't accept the terms of the deal. This was because there was a moral bottom line. Of course, there was another important reason. They didn't have much desire for dragon materials. After all, they didn't lack dragon materials. Mr. Marlin, we respect the guardian ancestors very much, so we can't accept this deal. West still tried to put it nicely. Mr. West, you're worrying too much. When I was alive, Mr. Boyd didn't casually use the remains of the Guardians as a bargaining chip. It was the dying wish of the Guardians. They made a promise before they died that they could use their remains as a bargaining chip when necessary, Malone said. Mr. Malone, is there nothing else apart from the remains of the dragons? Malone was surprised to hear West's words. West's words had sounded like he was only interested in profits. Why did he reject the remains of the Dragon Clan? Could it be that he didn't have enough chips? Malone suddenly looked up at West, then at the association members around him. All of them had the faint aura of the Dragon Clan. It was very weak, but Malin could sense it. This was mainly because Malone himself possessed the power of the Dragon Clan. Therefore, he was very sensitive to the aura of the Dragon Clan. Moreover, the dragon aura on their bodies didn't come from the same dragon race. The Dragon Clan aura on their bodies was not because of the power bestowed by the Dragon Clan. If it was the power bestowed by the Dragon Clan, then the aura would be very dense. However, their auras were extremely weak. The auras on their bodies weren't the power of the Dragon Clan. Instead, they carried some kind of artifact belonging to the Dragon Clan. Malone suddenly understood. They had not only the remains of the Dragon Clan, but also more than one. No wonder they weren't interested in the remains of the Dragon Clan. They already had the remains of the Dragon Clan. However, with their strength, they couldn't possibly slay a dragon, right? Could it be that they were hiding their strength? Mr. West, have you participated in a dragon-slaying operation before? Malone asked tentatively. If they had enough people and had the strength they had displayed last night, it was indeed possible for them to successfully slay a dragon. We have the remains of the Dragon Clan, but that doesn't mean we've slain a dragon before. We just happened to obtain the remains. Malone wasn't surprised. If they had really slain a dragon before, their strength wouldn't be justified at all. Moreover, the auras on their bodies didn't come from the same dragon race. If they could really kill 2 or more dragons, then their strength would be too terrifying. We once discovered a battlefield of the dragon clan. 3 dragons were fighting each other. We didn't do anything and waited until the 3 dragons died together. Only then did we retrieve their remains. Wes said, this lie didn't need any special details because the difficulty of slaying a dragon was too great. That was why their lie seemed more plausible. Malone nodded. He believed West's words. At least, he felt that most of them were true. However, it was indeed rare for 3 dragons to fight each other. In the end, they even died together. Mr. West, what about the blessing from the Guardian? Do you need it? What type of blessing? Blessing was also a type of magic, but it didn't have any specific attribute. In fact, almost every type of magic had a blessing. There were also some special existences that had the power of blessing. For example, this nature's guardian. This kind of existence's blessing was very special. Their blessings would have a special effect. As long as certain conditions are met, you can freely borrow the guardian's power. Since you said that certain conditions have to be met, then it's not free to use. Mr. West, you're worrying too much. This condition refers to the body's condition. After all, even if the dragon race's power is right in front of you, not everyone can withstand it. You're a master magician, so you should understand this, Malone said respectfully. West was still not satisfied. In comparison, he was more willing to accept the conditional lending of power. He was more at ease using the power of equivalent trade, because this power was a trade. After using it, it would be over. There would be no subsequent karma. However, although the blessings that Malone spoke of sounded wonderful, in reality, it was a form of karma. In the future, if the nature's guardian needed it, it might be able to use this to recruit him. It would be difficult for him to refuse. He might not even be able to. Mr. Malone, let's talk about something more practical. Although we're not the best in the industry, we hope for a fair trade. You can treat us as mercenaries. You can give us a good price, and we'll act according to the price. Chapter 1940. Malone was speechless at the sly old fox West. West was too shrewd. If he wanted something good, he wanted something tangible. Malone took out a horn that looked like it had been made from a goat's horn. This is the dragon horn, Malone said. Malone said, as long as you blow the dragon's horn, you can release dragon's might. However, to blow the dragon's horn, you must have powerful magic power. West's eyes lit up. This was good stuff. It was a magic tool that only dragons could make, and a dragon could only make one in its lifetime. Although it wasn't unique, there were only a handful of them in the outside world. The dragon clan would only give the dragon horn to a human they recognized. If you can blow the dragon's horn, then this will be your reward. West lowered his head in thought. The dragon horn was indeed very precious. He had indeed heard of the dragon horn. However, it wasn't suitable for most spiritualists. After all, most spiritualists couldn't use the dragon horn in battle. The dragon horn wasn't meant to be used in battle either. We agree, Gaia said as she walked in. West looked at Gaia. Gaia only gave him a look. Actually, West was hesitating because if this deal was made, he would undoubtedly be the one to use the dragon horn. This would make him feel like he was abusing his power and making everyone in the association work for him. West had always been a very disciplined person. He wasn't willing to do something that would leave behind a lot of criticism. Malone looked at Gaia. He noticed that Gaia's dragon aura was slightly stronger. He guessed that Gaia might have some powerful dragon magic tool. Malone wasn't sure if Gaia's words counted, so he looked at West. West thought for a moment and said, since our people think this deal is okay, let's work together. Malone was very straightforward. He tossed the dragon horn to West. Can we talk about the specifics now? Malone asked. West nodded. Of course. Since we've decided to work together, we naturally need to know the exact situation. There has always been a nature guardian on this wild continent since ancient times. Furthermore, every nature guardian has been a member of the dragon clan. The dragon clan explained. Malone slowly explained. The nature guardian's main responsibility is to maintain the natural balance of this place. At the same time, they're also responsible for guarding this place against unnatural forces. Those spirit beasts last night, are they the unnatural powers you spoke of? They're the four main enemies of the nature guardians. The undead elemental army was created by an ancient shaman on the African continent. That shaman wanted to pursue immortality, and one day, he thought that he had successfully created immortality. Then, he cast a spell of immortality on everyone in the tribe. However, this spell of immortality ended in failure. The entire tribe became undead elemental bodies, evil spirits that fused with the elements. Their souls were tortured by the elements all day long. They hated this world and all living beings in this world, so they wanted to assimilate all living beings into undead elemental bodies. The leader of the undead elemental army was that shaman, Boila. Ancient Yida's army is also a product of humans. They are twisted creatures created by ancient shamans. Their numbers are huge, and they have no leader. The spirit of vengeance is formed from the living beings killed by humans. It is a huge and terrifying monster. This spirit of vengeance is even able to fight against the nature guardians. Originally, the nature guardian had enough power to resist these unnatural forces, but because of the Scarlet Church's mischief, the nature guardian was listed as a hunting target, causing the nature guardian to be attacked by a large number of spiritualists. In one attack, the nature guardian was ambushed by the vengeful cursed spirit when it was fighting against those spiritualists, causing it to suffer severe injuries. Now, the nature guardian is in a weakened state. The originally fragile balance has completely lost its stability. The enemies of the nature guardian are stirring, and the most active among them is the spirit beast army. Their numbers are simply too large, so their attacks are unrestrained. From Malone's description, the situation was far more serious than what West had imagined. In addition, the evil cultists are also getting restless, trying to cause even more chaos. From what you're saying, the current situation is already very serious. It's indeed very grim, but it's not entirely without good news. The four enemies of the nature guardian aren't her companions, and they're also fighting amongst themselves. Moreover, although they know that the nature guardian is injured, they don't know the extent of her injuries. Then how serious are the injuries of the nature guardians? Malone muttered to himself for a long time, hesitating whether he should tell the truth or not. After all, he didn't completely trust West and the others. However, after thinking for a long time, Malone finally decided to tell the truth. Currently, the nature guardians are unable to fight. There are only two ways. What are they? One way is to stall for time. 10 years. The nature protector needs 10 years to recover. You're saying that we have to guard this place for 10 years. Wes shouted. If that's the case, I'm sorry, but we can't help you. Wes stuffed the dragon horn back into Malone's hands. Don't worry, Mr. West. I've said that there are two ways. Stalling for time is also unacceptable to us. For dragons, 10 years is a short time, but for humans, 10 years is too long, Malone said unhurriedly. Malone said unhurriedly. That's why there's another way, which is to eliminate a certain number of enemies. Isn't that the old way? Just fight, and it'll be over in no time, Wes said nonchalantly. It's not the same. The reason why the Nature Guardian is the Nature Guardian is because while he protects the wildlands, he also receives the power of the wildlands. After killing those enemies, they will return to nature and eventually return to the Nature Guardian's body. This way, the Nature Guardian's injuries can be healed quickly. As long as we kill enough enemies, the Nature Guardian can recover in an extremely short time. Chapter 1941. You have to give us a specific number, Wes said. If you only say that we have to kill a lot of them, we won't have an idea at all. I don't like this kind of battle without an exact number. At least one of the Nature Guardian's 4 main enemies has to be eliminated for the Nature Guardian to recover completely. We can't do that, West rejected directly. Even if he accepted Malone's reward, it didn't mean that Malone could ask for an exorbitant price. Moreover, Malone's request was indeed too much. According to Marlin's explanation, the Nature Guardian's 4 main enemies were the Spirit Beast Army, the Undead Elemental Army, Guyida's army, and the Spirit of Vengeance. The four of them had close combat strength, and with the Spirit of Vengeance as the standard, the Spirit of Vengeance's strength was equivalent to the Nature Guardians. In other words, they would have to face an enemy that was at the level of a dragon with the title of Nature Guardian. This was too much. West knew the supernatural organization's strength very well. Putting aside Chun Zhao, the people below the president weren't weak, but they weren't at the top either. Even if they all worked together, they wouldn't be able to fight against a dragon. Take Gaia, for example. She had the bloodline of a dragon. Ever since her awakening, her bloodline had been increasing in purity. But even now, she was barely at the level of a young dragon. She was only at the level of a Betos. A young dragon and an adult dragon were two completely different concepts. Gaia was also the strongest in the supernatural organization. Moreover, the difference in strength wasn't something that could be made up with a few people. It was like a special forces soldier and a kid. Their strength, speed, and combat power were only 10 times different. But could 10 kids beat a special forces soldier? Of course, from the current situation, if they really wanted to accept this mission, the Spirit Beast Army was undoubtedly the most suitable. After all, the Spirit Beasts won purely through numbers. Their individual strength was within the acceptable range of the supernatural organization. Moreover, the supernatural organization was most confident in dealing with such a large number of enemies. However, since they were able to rival the other three, then their numbers were probably terrifying. Quantitative change could be transformed into qualitative change. Mr. West, I feel that you can try the Spirit Beast Army. Malone said, the Spirit Beast Army isn't always gathered together. They're all led by Chief-class Spirit Beasts. Roughly one Chief-class Spirit Beast will be born out of every 10,000 Spirit Beasts. Their habits are very similar to wild beasts, and they will often have conflicts with each other over territory. Hence, you don't need to deal with the entire Spirit Beast Army at once. You just need to wipe them out one by one. Marlin paused for a moment before continuing. Also, I can provide you with information about the Spirit Beasts. I still can't. Your conditions are too much, West said. Mr. West, we can arrange for a few spiritualists who are not weak to work with you. A rather strong spiritualist? We don't like to team up with strangers. Malone had never met someone so difficult to deal with. If it weren't for the fact that they were powerful, Ma Long would have flipped the table. Marlin continued, Mr. West, the people I've arranged are not weak, but they are also willing to listen to your orders. They will obey any order you give them unconditionally. Are these people your subordinates? No, but they have already made a promise. Hence, they don't object to my arrangements. West was a little puzzled. They weren't Marlin's subordinates, yet they weren't weak and would obey Marlin's orders unconditionally. Ordinary spiritualist organizations might not be willing to work with strangers, let alone listen to the orders of strangers. Could it be that these spiritualists had something on them that Marlin could use against them? Hence, they were being threatened by him? If that was the case, he would have to be even more careful. Mr. West, I believe that our cooperation should be based on sincerity. My request will be lowered again and again. All right, but before that, I need to know who the people you've arranged for me are and how strong they are. I don't want to bring a bunch of burdens with me. Don't you agree? Of course, no problem. Mr. Sonnenfeld, when do you plan to return the money you owe us? Sonnenfeld's expression was very ugly as he looked at the people in front of him. I've already applied for bankruptcy protection. I don't have the money to return it to you. Sonnenfeld could only hide in his daughter's house and rely on her to live. This had saved him a lot of trouble. During this period, the money he owed through proper channels couldn't do anything to him. However, the money he owed did not all come from proper channels. For example, the person in front of him was from Sainin Finance Company. Of course, they were also a usury group. Sonnenfeld had borrowed $3 million, but after a year, it had turned into $5 million. Usury represented huge profits, so it was inevitable that it would appear in any country or region. Of course, usury was not allowed or protected by the law. However, usury did not rely on the law to collect debts. They used more direct methods. Mr. Sonnenfeld, This is not a reason for you to reject us. The man with a small mustache, standing in front of Sonnenfeld, smoked a cigar. When he looked at Sonnenfeld, his eyes flickered with coldness. I don't like violence, but that doesn't mean I won't use it. I communicate with most of my clients peacefully, but if they don't listen to me, I don't mind using unconventional methods to get back the money that belongs to us. Just then, the door opened and Demi walked in. When she saw her father and a few strangers, her face sank. Who are you? Get out of my house, or I'll call the police. The man with a small mustache looked at Demi. Miss Demi, I'm the person in charge of Sane & Finance Company. This is my business card. We have some financial disputes with your father, but if you call the police, the situation will become very complicated. Dad, how much do you owe them? Demi looked at her father. Sonnenfeld lowered his head, unwilling to answer the question. $5 million, the man with a small mustache answered for Sonnenfeld. Demi's face darkened. $5 million? Even if she sold herself, she wouldn't be able to get that much money. Chapter 1942. The people from the finance company left. Although they did not use force, the name of the finance company gave off a very bad feeling. Even if Demi was a high-ranking military officer, it was useless. Demi and Sonnenfeld sat in the room, neither of them speaking. Dad, why are you in debt to the loan sharks? Before my movie was released, I thought that the film company's stock would soar because of my movie, so I borrowed some money to buy the company's stock, Sonnenfeld said helplessly. You know the result. Demi was also helpless. She also knew that her father had been in trouble. His father had ended up in his current situation because he had invested all of his assets into stocks. Do you know the background of those loan sharks? Demi asked. Yes, they're New Yorkers. Of course, the New Yorker Sonnenfeld was talking about was not just a magazine. New Yorkers referred to a wide range of things, and one of them was widely known as the gang. This was also a very famous gang in the United States. Demi's face gradually darkened. The gang's structure was very complicated. It could even influence politicians. Therefore, it was difficult for Demi to use the military's power. Suddenly, Demi thought of an idea. A solution that was not really a solution. Dad, stay here for now. I'll think of something, Demi said as she left in a hurry and headed to the military base headquarters. Seeing Demi return, Demi's adjutant immediately came over. Sir, aren't you on leave? I'm fine, so I came back, Demi said calmly. Due to the explosion on the artificial island in Lake Pontchartrain, Demi had been demoted. Now, she was only a major. However, her authority did not decrease because of that. Instead, she was authorized to handle some special events. Now, she was in charge of the entire military base. After Demi returned to her office, she immediately opened a file on her computer. Demi had access to a lot of secrets. Not long ago, she discovered one of the missions. The higher-ups had given her $30 million for this mission. It could be said that this mission was the most expensive mission that Demi had ever encountered. After all, some missions in third-world countries only cost a few $100,000 to a few $1 million. Eliminate the Sala lab in the desert near the capital of Baja California. The mastermind behind Sarah's laboratory was the culprit behind the explosion of the artificial island in Lake Pontchartrain. At present, the approximate location of Sala's laboratory had been determined. It was located underground within 200 square kilometers. Demi stared at the description of the mission, reading every single useful information in detail. At the moment, it was still impossible to find out the true identity of the owner of Sarah's laboratory, so it was best to keep at least one person alive. At the same time, Sarah's laboratory was conducting unknown experiments, and the contents of the experiments were likely to involve human and biological experiments that violated national and international laws. There were also many unnatural monsters in the desert that were extremely aggressive. Because it was located in Mexico, it could not receive military support, nor could it carry too many extraordinary weapons. However, they could hire international mercenaries, and the activity budget was capped at $30 million US. Demi thought about it. At the moment, she could only mobilize about 500 people in the military base. There were only about 300 people who could carry out the mission, while the other 200 were logistics personnel. Furthermore, it was impossible for all 300 of them to complete the mission at the same time. For this operation, they could only mobilize about 150 people at most. During the last operation on the artificial island in Lake Pontchartrain, she had lost nearly 100 people. This time, the target was Sarah's laboratory itself, so the danger would definitely be higher than the last time. Wanting to completely destroy Sarah's laboratory with just 150 people, the difficulty was too high. Demi thought about it for a long time. According to her best plan, she would complete this mission alone. She would falsely report the use of the funds, then withhold a portion of the funds to pay off her father's debt. As a military general, she naturally had a way. For example, she could set up a shell company, then use the shell company's account to transfer the funds to this company. However, the prerequisite was that she had enough strength to deal with Sarah's laboratory. If she couldn't deal with Sarah's laboratory, then the higher-ups of the military would definitely conduct a detailed investigation of the operation. To find out the reason for the failure, this would increase the possibility of her withholding funds being exposed. If she could complete this mission, then all she needed to do was to report the operation, and the higher-ups wouldn't get to the bottom of it and investigate where the funds were used. Demi thought about it for a long time, trying to find an appropriate plan to complete this mission. However, she lacked sufficient strength, and this operation was outside of the country, which increased the difficulty of her mission. What should she do? Demi suddenly thought of someone. Chen Zhao, the culprit that caused her father to go bankrupt. He was also the person she hated the most. Demi wasn't really willing to interact with Chen Zhao. This was because Chen Zhao was someone as strong as her. Moreover, he had almost no weaknesses. He had enormous assets, and in this country, rich people were the privileged class. Moreover, his personal strength was unfathomable. After thinking for a long time, Demi finally decided to interact with Chen Zhao. Demi packed up the confidential documents and went to Chen Zhao's residence. "Boss, here's the financial report from Citibank." Portia handed it to Chen Zhao. Portia had already seen the numbers on it. Chen Zhao's expenses last month were huge, but they weren't even as much as the interest on his bank account. This meant that no matter how much Chen Zhao spent, his money still didn't decrease. His money didn't decrease. Instead, it continued to increase. Of course, this didn't include Chen Zhao's personal income. Chen Zhao's bank account was enough to make Portia's scalp go numb. Chen Zhao glanced at the financial report and then put it away. Chen Zhao had never been good at math. Thus, he'd always been very casual about financial reports. Of course, if he found out that the bank's agent, Andrews, had cheated Chen Zhao's money one day, he could ask the bank for compensation with this financial report. Just then, the butler system sent a message. "Master, a stranger has entered Mingwei Villa. After checking the license plate, we can confirm that the owner is Demi Sonnenfeld, a mid-level general in the military, major rank." Chapter 1943. She was a guest, but Demi wasn't a good guest. It was obvious from her gaze and expression when she'd arrived. She definitely wasn't a guest. Portia stood beside Chen Zhao. Looking at Demi's angry face, she was even more annoyed. Last time, Demi had used her to threaten Chen Zhao. It would be strange if she had a good attitude towards Demi. Chen Zhao crossed his legs and looked at Demi. "Ms. Demi, if you're just here to stare at me, I can take a photo for you. You can stare at it day and night." Demi took a deep breath. Even here, Demi was still hesitant about whether or not to cooperate with Chen Zhao. But in the end, she made up her mind. "Ms. Portia, can you give me some space? I have something to discuss with your boss." Portia was even more annoyed. "You don't pay me. Why should I listen to you?" Demi looked at Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, what do you think?" "Portia, go and accompany the kids." Chen Zhao also wanted to know why Demi was looking for him. If Portia was here, Demi definitely wouldn't say anything. What she wanted to tell him was most likely confidential information. It wouldn't benefit Portia if she knew. Portia glared at Demi hatefully and then turned to leave. "You can say it now, Ms. Demi." Demi handed Chen Zhao the document she'd brought with her. "Mr. Chen, take a look at this." "What's this?" Chen Zhao didn't take it out immediately. Demi wasn't his friend. In fact, they were enemies. Who knew what the document was? Remember the explosion on the artificial island in Lake Pontchartrain? Demi said. It was done by the people from Sarah's lab. Chen Zhao still didn't take out the document. Instead, he waited for Demi to continue. Demi's expression was calm. She hoped to see some change in Chen Zhao's expression. But Chen Zhao didn't move at all, as if this had nothing to do with him. In fact, it really had nothing to do with him. I still don't understand. Mr. Chen, you were attacked by a super bomb last time. Don't you want revenge? I don't want to. I'm a person who advocates peace and opposes violence. Not all losses can be solved with violence. Hearing that, Demi couldn't help but feel nauseous. Chen Zhao's words were really untrustworthy. Mr. Chen, this isn't interesting at all. Is that so? But I still don't understand. Miss Demi, why are you showing me this thing? Demi was a bit annoyed by Chen Zhao's obvious question. However, there was no trust between them in the first place. Therefore, both sides held back from each other. Of course, Demi hoped that Chen Zhao would be overwhelmed by anger. Meanwhile, Chen Zhao was always on guard against Demi. Mr. Chen, I'll be straightforward. How about you and I work together to eradicate this Sarah lab? Nothing. Chen Zhao rejected Demi's suggestion. Why? This will benefit you as well. Benefits? I don't see any benefits. Demi took a deep breath and said, $10 million. Chen Zhao crossed his arms and didn't react at all. $15 million. $20 million. But Chen Zhao still didn't react. Mr. Chen, you'd better take a look at the documents I've brought. In the past 10 years, Sarah Lab has conducted a large number of illegal experiments. 10 years ago, there was a case of a large number of police officers going missing in Bacali. In one night, more than 50 police officers went missing. 3 years later, they were found buried in an abandoned mine. These 50 police officers all had one thing in common. They all took part in an operation. They once took down an organization that sold human organs. That organization was an external department of Sarah Lab. What does this have to do with me? All the signs show that Sarah Lab is a vengeful organization. They take revenge on those who were their enemies in the past, Demi said. Demi said, both you and I fought them before, so I don't think Sala's laboratory will let you go. Chen Zhao frowned. He really didn't like Demi. He didn't like Demi, but he had to admit that Demi's words had hit his sore spot. Chen Zhao didn't like to guard against thieves day and night. You represent the military. Isn't the military enough to destroy Sarah Lab? Sarah Lab is in Mexico, in the middle of the desert near Bacali. No matter how powerful the military is, they can't send an army into Mexico. Since it's in Mexico, you have even less reason to attack, right? It's not in America, anyway. No, they're a potential threat. We have to destroy them. Demi stared at Chen Zhao. Just like last time, you'll be hired as a special consultant for the military. Chen Zhao closed his eyes and leaned back, as if he was thinking about Demi's words. Mr. Chen, after this operation, we'll write off all our grudges. I won't make trouble for you in the future either. Chen Zhao had to admit that he was still a bit wary of Demi. After all, she was a mid-level general. Her hatred couldn't hurt Chen Zhao in any real way, but it didn't hurt him much. But the potential threat still existed. This was a problem Chen Zhao had to face. Seeing that Chen Zhao was wavering, Demi continued. Apart from that, I can also be your partner in the military. Of course, it's a private one. Chen Zhao was tempted, but he still hesitated. Why should I believe you? I can write a guarantee for you, Demi said. Demi said, if our relationship breaks down in the future, you can expose this guarantee. Chen Zhao was surprised. Demi's intentions were too obvious. She wanted to cooperate with him. She'd actually put his weakness in his hands. But Chen Zhao had to admit that he was really wavering this time. Demi was a potential stock in the military. If she could become his partner, it would only be good for him. Sure, as long as you're willing to write a guarantee, I'll agree to the cooperation. Chen Zhao finally made up his mind. I have another condition, Demi said. Chen Zhao frowned. What condition? Demi looked at Chen Zhao. I need you to promise me first, then I can tell you. How is that possible? Do I have to promise you even if you tell me to eat shit? My condition isn't difficult for you at all. In fact, it's insignificant. Chapter 1944. Even if they'd verbally agreed to cooperate. But Chen Zhao still wouldn't agree to Demi's strange request easily. Even if it was a verbal agreement, Chen Zhao wouldn't accept it if he wasn't sure. If you can't tell me your request first, I definitely won't agree. Demi took a deep breath. She was angry at Chen Zhao's stubbornness. He wasn't willing to expose even the slightest flaw. From the beginning to the end, Demi couldn't take the initiative. She could only wait for Chen Zhao's answer. On behalf of the military, I hope to pay you $30 million US, not $20 million US. Chen Zhao was stunned, but he quickly understood Demi's intentions. Even so, you won't get the money, right? Chen Zhao looked at Demi. Chen Zhao didn't care if Demi cooperated or not. In fact, he was more willing for her to do so. That way, Demi would give Chen Zhao even more leverage. If Demi's previous promise was only for her to lose her position and job, then what she did now would be illegal. Now what she did was illegal and a felony. She would even be court-martialed. Demi looked at Chen Zhao with some mockery in her eyes. I really don't understand how you earned such a large fortune. Then tell me how you're going to get the money. I don't need you to transfer the money directly to my account. What I need is for you to open 2 anonymous overseas accounts and prepare them in advance. You don't need to wait for the military to transfer the money to your account before you carry out a series of operations. What's the point of that? If the military transfers the money to the account under your name, the military can track the account through financial channels and know the short-term flow of funds in your account. However, if you prepare the money in advance, the military can't track it. Of course, these 2 anonymous accounts will be handed to me after the money is in hand. That's a simple procedure, Demi said coolly. Chen Zhao got the gist of it. It was indeed very simple. But if he wanted to take the money, Demi wouldn't be able to do anything. This involved the issue of trust. Demi had suggested this mostly because she was confident in her own value. In this regard, Chen Zhao indeed wouldn't ruin his cooperation with Demi for $10 million. Chen Zhao didn't want to make a powerful enemy for $10 million. With this in hand, Demi would no longer be a threat. I never thought that the proud Miss Demi would have such an unknown side to her. Demi glanced at Chen Zhao. It's all because of you. Because of you, my father owes a lot of money. Some of it is from loan sharks. Most of it is to pay off the loan sharks. The rest is for my father to pay off his bank debt. Demi looked at Chen Zhao. Because Sonnenfeld had filed for bankruptcy protection, he didn't have to worry about his bank debt for the time being. But it also made his life extremely inconvenient. Sonnenfeld couldn't even have his own credit card. His credit rating in the bank had completely collapsed. In the United States, if one's credit went bankrupt, it would be hard for one to do anything. Although Demi was a mid-level general in the military, she was facing millions of dollars in debt. She was also powerless. It was precisely because of this that she decided to take the risk. Of course, she knew it was wrong to do so. But now, she had no other choice. She felt that she deserved it. This was no longer about right or wrong. If she didn't do this, she would lose her father. Chen Zhao laughed. He didn't feel guilty or regretful at all. Miss Demi, if you're willing to sign a contract to sell yourself, I'll be happy to help your father pay off his debt. Demi ignored Chen Zhao's words and pretended that she didn't hear anything. Was it that easy to sign a contract to sell herself? Her identity was so sensitive. If she really did sign a contract to sell herself, even if there wouldn't be any legal consequences, once it was exposed, she might be judged as a traitor. Of course, Chen Zhao was just saying it casually. He didn't really expect Demi to agree. After all, Demi wasn't at the end of her rope yet. The operation will start in a week. You should prepare. We need to do some preparations too. I'll participate too, Demi said. Oh, since you're the military's special consultant, you can give me some suggestions. It's best for your soldiers to wear portable weapons with strong penetration and incendiary bombs. Regular grenades won't be very effective. Also, your soldiers need to prepare protective clothing. Anything else? What I'm saying now is based on what I've seen on the artificial island in Lake Pontchartrain. However, The incident on the artificial island in Lake Pontchartrain was caused by an attack by Sarah's laboratory. Sarah's laboratory itself is definitely more dangerous than the artificial island in Lake Pontchartrain. I know nothing about Sarah's laboratory, so I'm not sure what kind of danger we'll encounter. Also, if Sarah Lab uses a super bomb like last time, I won't be able to do anything. We'll all die together. Hearing that, Demi couldn't help but reveal a serious expression. After all, the explosion on Lake Pontchartrain's artificial island had left a deep impression on Demi. The artificial island had completely disappeared because of that, and a large portion of the Lake Pontchartrain bridge had also been destroyed. If we want to carry out this mission, the first thing we need to do is to be secretive, Chun Zhao said. We can't use military identities. All of us have to disguise ourselves as tourists. Also, the operation has to be completed in one night. We can't give them time to prepare. If the people from Sarah Lab find out that they've been targeted by the American military, they might abandon the lab and prepare a huge gift for us. Demi nodded. Chun Zhao's words made sense. But this way, they couldn't hide the people they brought. After all, it would be too obvious if more than 100 burly Americans appeared in Akali. How does the military transport weapons to other countries? Chun Zhao asked. We have our own channels. We have arms dealers all over the world. As long as we provide them with what we need, they can prepare the weapons locally. We don't need to transport them. By the way, can I buy firearms if I want? No. Only the military can use those channels. Even I can't contact them. I can only send information and requests through the higher-ups in the military. Chapter 1945. Boss, why did that woman want to see you? After Demi left, Portia returned to Chun Zhao's side. Judging from their conversation, it didn't seem like they were talking about anything serious. However, when she saw Chun Zhao's smiling face, Portia suspected that Chun Zhao had earned money again. She remembered that when Demi came to Chun Zhao for help last time, she offered him $20 million. At that time, Chun Zhao had accepted it unwillingly. She didn't know that Chun Zhao must have earned a lot of money to be smiling so happily. Chun Zhao whistled and laid down on the chair. Portia, go get me some beer. Portia moved a box of beer to Chun Zhao. Boss, did you earn a lot of money again? Yeah. Then, on account of my hard work, will you give me a raise? Chun Zhao glanced at Portia. Portia, you only see that I'm making money, but you don't see my expenses. My expenses are huge too, so don't think about getting a raise for the time being. Portia cursed Chun Zhao in her heart. The capitalist, the vampire. Just then, Felwood Cisco called again. It was time to check on the Mirror Lake Villa again. Felwood would call Chun Zhao 2 or 3 times a month. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't go every time. Felwood promised that he would do it before Christmas. Chun Zhao's family could move to their new home at Mirror Lake. Chun Zhao didn't force it though. He kept saying that he wasn't in a hurry. However, Felwood didn't stop working on Chun Zhao's project. To him, Chun Zhao was a huge financial backer. He'd even introduced Steven, a big client. Technically, Felwood still had to give Chun Zhao a commission, but he didn't dare to. He was afraid that Chun Zhao would think that he was insulting him. After all, he couldn't afford to give too much. If he gave too little, Chun Zhao wouldn't like it. Therefore, Felwood Cisco worked overtime on Chun Zhao's project and added more materials. Kids, get changed. We'll go see how the new house is. After Chun Zhao informed them, the children all changed into their outfits. When Portia and Chun Zhao's family arrived, the new house at Mirror Lake was already finished. The main project now was the renovation of the interior of the building, as well as the planting and transplanting of the external garden. When he entered the villa, he saw that some of the rooms in the villa had already been completed, while others were still being renovated. The number of workers in the construction site had decreased a lot, unlike the previous construction when there were as many as hundreds of people. Mirror Lake's new home, in addition to the huge change in appearance, was also several times larger than before. If it was the villa in the past, although the design was not bad, the building area was too small. There were no more than 5 bedrooms, and the other messy rooms added up to a total of 11 or 12 rooms, including the number of bathrooms. It was only when he was at the Bright Moon Villa that he was able to correct himself. There were more than 15 bedrooms in the Minuet Villa. Basically, every child would have a room. Now, the new villa at Mirror Lake had more rooms, up to 30 rooms. The main body of the building was U-shaped. Half of it was in the lake, and the other half was on land. Moreover, every bedroom faced both the forest and Mirror Lake, which were illuminated. Chen Zhao was very satisfied with the design. Just then, a car entered the construction site. "Hi, Chun." Ken alighted from the car. Chen Zhao walked up and gave Ken a hug. "Why are you here?" "Dad heard that you're here," Ken said. "He invited you and your children to our house." "Are you sure?" "I have a lot of children." "Don't worry," Ken said. "My yard is big enough, although it can't compare to yours." "Okay." Chen Zhao nodded. After inspecting the construction site, Chen Zhao brought the children to Bant's house. "Mary." Chen Zhao went up and kissed her face. "Are you home today too?" "Dell and Miss Fisher went out for 2 days," Mary said. "They'll be back tomorrow. I've been home these days." "Children, come here. This is your Aunt Mary." "Aunt Mary, hello." Diddla greeted Mary first. "What a cute girl." Mary and Bant both knew that Chen Zhao had adopted 8 children. "Aunt Mary, I'm already grown up," Diddla protested. "Okay, forgive my rudeness, but you're a beautiful girl," Mary said, smiling. "Let me see. Is there one missing?" Mary's gaze landed on Portia. "Is it her?" "She's not my adopted child. She's my assistant." Chen Zhao glanced at Portia. Portia was also speechless. How did he look like a child? "Where's Bant?" "He went out to buy alcohol. I drove here. It's not convenient for me to drink." "It's okay. I won't let Ken drink. I'll have him drive you later." "Mom, you're too much. You're moving out soon. Your father and I paid for the down payment for your new house. Do you think you can go against my orders now?" "Mom, Chen is still here. He has so many children. You should at least save some face for your son. If you have Chen's abilities, I won't say anything." Mary and Ban had watched Chen Zhao grow up bit by bit. From the very beginning, when he first arrived here, to now, when he was extremely wealthy. However, Mary and Bant always kept a certain distance from Chen Zhao. They were intimate but not pestered. They would occasionally invite Chen Zhao's family over for a meal. A while later, Bant returned and called Ken out to move the beer. Chen Zhao also came out and looked at Bant. "Bant, why did you grow a beard? It looks like you've changed a lot." "I can't help it. In the brewery, I didn't look imposing at all, but after I grew a beard, the kids became much more obedient." "Which disobedient kid is it?" "I'll throw him into the sea to feed the sharks." "Come on, the brewery is yours, but how many times have you been to the brewery?" "Let me count." Once when production started, once when the executives interviewed, and once during the last meeting. You've only been there 3 times in total. You're too irresponsible as a boss. This means that I trust the management of the brewery. Actually, Ban also knew about Chen Zhao's agreement with Denver. He was Chen Zhao's spy in the brewery. He was definitely one of Chen Zhao's people. Even if he said otherwise, no one would believe him. Chapter 1946. When Chen Zhao left, he didn't ask Ken to send him off. Instead, he forbade Portia from drinking and made her drive. Portia was already used to Chen Zhao's unscrupulous boss. "Boss, I want next month's salary in advance," Portia said as she drove. "I'm drunk now. I can't hear what you're saying." "Boss, my house has no water and electricity. Do you want me to live in a primitive society?" Portia planned to act pitiful in front of Chen Zhao. "Last time, I asked if you wanted to borrow money. If you need it, I can lend it to you, but you rejected me. I don't want to borrow money now. I want my salary in advance. Is there a difference?" "Of course," Portia answered seriously. Portia answered seriously. "If I borrow money, then I'll only owe more and more. But if I get my salary in advance, then the amount of money I owe won't increase." The American people were used to this sort of thing. Spending in advance, receiving in advance, and enjoying in advance. Before Chen Zhao could reply, Portia added, "If you don't agree, I'll move to your house." "Sure," Chen Zhao agreed readily. "You can move here for half a month." "Huh? I'm going on a business trip next week. You can move here and help me take care of the kids." "You don't need me to follow you?" No, no, I don't want to be a laborer, Portia wailed. Portia wailed, I'm not your coolie. I'm highly educated. I should do something more meaningful. Chun Zhao rolled his eyes and said mercilessly, if you think you should do something more meaningful, you should be a volunteer. Portia, know your place. You're just a vain woman. Portia was speechless. You're just a vain woman. Boss, is this fun? Yes. You're so rich, Portia said earnestly. You should hire some servants. Chun Zhao tilted his head and looked at Portia. To save money, he said matter-of-factly. Portia wanted to vomit blood. He earned tens of millions of dollars just to save some money? Wasn't that a bit too much? His one day's income was probably the lifetime income of a bunch of servants. Boss, you've gone too far. How about this? I'll advance your salary for next month, but you'll have to temporarily move into my house while I'm on a business trip. Fine. What else could Portia do? She had no right to choose at all. If she continued to bargain with Chun Zhao's personality, he might not even get an advance on his salary. He directly ordered him to move in. Boss, do you really not need me to go with you? I'm going to Mexico, Mexicali, not some shopping city. But Cali? That place is not bad either. Cali is the capital of Baja California because of its proximity to the United States. Therefore, the export processing industry here is quite prosperous and has also attracted a large number of Americans to Cali for vacation. In addition to the unique scenery here, it was also because the prices here were quite low. Here, one could enjoy the treatment of a rich person with $1,000. With 10,000 USD, one could enjoy the treatment of an emperor here. The middle class in America loved to come here. Portia was tempted to tag along. She had always heard that Cali was a popular holiday spot. If they followed Chun Zhao, they would definitely spend a lot of money, given Chun Zhao's requirements for quality of life. On the other hand, she did not have to spend a single cent to enjoy the best quality of life. Unfortunately, Chun Zhao clearly would not agree to her request. After reaching home, Portia left. Of course, she still got an advance on her salary before leaving. Chun Zhao told Fei Lai at the dinner table, Fei Lai, I'm going to Mexico's Mexicali next week. Mexicali? To play? Chun Zhao shook his head. It's military work. Uncle, I want to go too. I want to go too. The children all looked at Chun Zhao with watery eyes. Not this time. Chun Zhao rejected the children's request decisively. I'm not going to play. I'll let Portia stay here for a few days next week. How many days are you going? I'm not sure. Maybe 3 or 4 days. I'll come back as soon as I'm done. Okay. I'll bring the children to the coastal rescue team while you're gone. That's okay. Portia can go. She can help a little. Hi, I'm Portia. Hi. I saw an ad on an agency website for sharing rentals. I heard that you're looking for a partner? Yes. Can I look at the house? Of course, but did you see the rent? It's at least $2,000. I need to look at the house first. If I'm satisfied, I'll accept the price. When will you come to look at the house? Now. I'm in a hurry. Sure. I don't have time during the day anyway. Portia didn't have money, but the house she was living in wasn't bad. It was a single-family villa in an upscale neighborhood. It was around 300 square meters. This was the house she'd found after getting Chun Zhao's job. At the time, she'd thought that her salary was enough to pay for the house. Later, she'd been short of money again, but she wasn't willing to move anymore. She wanted to find someone to share her house with. 30 minutes later, there was a knock on Portia's door. When Portia opened the door, she saw a very petite girl standing outside. The girl looked to be around 20 years old, but she was around 5 meters tall. I'm here to look at the house. I might be your partner. The girl wore a loose long-sleeve shirt and hid her hands in her pockets. Portia saw a sports car parked in front of the villa. It seemed that the girl was quite rich. Please come in. Portia let the girl in. I'm Zephyra, the girl said. I'm Portia. Zephyra walked around the room. Portia introduced the houses to Zephyra one by one. This house has 3 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. Of course, there's also a public bathroom. That's the living room. The kitchen is over there. Water, electricity, and gas are shared equally. I don't cook at home, Zephyr said. Then I'll take care of your breakfast. Okay, Zephyr nodded. Zephyr didn't realize that she'd fallen into Portia's trap. Or rather, she wasn't very sensitive to money. My room is on the left, Portia said. You can choose one of the other two. I'm not home most of the time. Even on the weekends, I'm probably working for my stingy vampire boss. Chapter 1947. The entire rent for Portia's apartment was only $3,500. But Portia asked Riva for $2,000. Of course, Portia actually had room to bargain. But Zevra had no intention of bargaining. After looking at the apartment, Riva stuffed a stack of cash into Portia's hands. Here's $2,000. Can I move in now? You mean today? Yes. It's expensive to stay in a hotel, Riva said. You're welcome. Portia finally smiled. Today was really a happy day. She just gotten next month's salary in advance from Chun Zhao. She didn't expect the empty room to be rented out too, and it was such a high price. Can you help me move some things? Did you bring any luggage? It's in the car. What luggage do you have in your sports car? A box of miscellaneous items and a box of clothes. When Portia followed Riva to the sports car, she realized that there was indeed very little luggage. Just as Portia was about to lift a box, Riva said, "You can't carry that box. You can carry the other one." Portia was immediately unhappy. She was at least 20 centimeters taller than Riva. Why could Riva carry it when she couldn't? As if she hadn't heard Riva, Portia reached for the box. But Portia felt like the box was filled with iron. She couldn't lift it at all. Portia tried again, and the box moved slightly. However, there was still a long way to go before he could take it out of the trunk. What's in this box? Iron? Let me take this box. Riva walked over and lifted the box with one hand. Then, she raised it slightly and put it on the ground. Portia's eyes almost fell to the ground. She could do that? Portia tried again. The other box. The other box was much easier. At least the second box was a normal weight. The first box, on the other hand, was at least 100 kilograms. This girl's strength was way too great. She could actually lift such a heavy box with one hand. Do you have sheets and pillows? I can borrow them for one night. Sure. Portia was generous. He helped Revla tidy up the room and gave his pillows and sheets to Revla. Riva opened the heavy box. Portia saw that there were indeed a lot of things in the box. Moreover, the items were very complicated, and most of them were things that she could not recognize. What are these things? My tool for work, Zephyr replied calmly. He took out the items from the boxes one by one and arranged them neatly. Portia also came over and studied it for a long time, but she still had no clue. There was no way to figure out the uses of these things. Is there anything to eat? Zephyr asked after a while. Yes, I'll go get some food. Portia had pizza in her fridge that was a few days old, but it was still edible after being reheated in the microwave. After taking 2 bites, Zephyr put the pizza back on the plate in disgust. Is it not to your taste? Don't tell me that's what you serve for breakfast. Zephyr looked at Portia suspiciously. Of course not. I just forgot to throw it away. In fact, Portia had been freeloading her meals at the Bright Moon Villa. There are still fresh ingredients in the fridge, but my cooking skills are very average. You can make it yourself. Indeed, Zephyr went to the kitchen to cook. Portia looked at Zephyr's skillful cooking and was a little stunned. Especially after she was done, Portia couldn't help but feel hungry as she looked at the food Zephyr cooked, even though she had already had dinner at the Bright Moon Villa. But now, she felt a little hungry again. Let's have some, Zephyr said. Are you a chef? Portia looked at the stir-fried meat with broccoli, picked up a knife and fork, and stabbed a piece of meat. Portia's eyes lit up as soon as it entered her mouth. Delicious. Stir-frying was rarely used in European and American cooking. It wasn't that it didn't exist, but it was very rare. Are you a chef? No. Cooking is just my hobby, Zephyr said. And I can't treat myself badly after living alone for so long. You're really good at cooking. Thank you. Zephyr could tell that Portia wanted to eat too, so she made a lot of dishes. Portia didn't stand on ceremony, even though it was her own home. She felt like she was freeloading. What's your job? Portia asked curiously. I'm a special consultant. Special consultant? What kind? You probably don't have the chance to use me. What about you? What do you do? I'm a private consultant for a rich man, Portia said. But my dream is to be a star. Everyone in LA wants to be a star. Zephyra didn't find Portia's answer strange at all. Except for rich people, such as my vampire boss. Is your boss very strict with you? Of course. He's the most despicable, shameless, and stingiest man I've ever seen. You can't imagine how stingy he is. If that's the case, why don't you quit? He pays me well, Portia said. But she didn't think that she could find a job that could pay her $3,500 a week. She had a good education, but there were too many cases of people with good education living on streets here. After all, $3,500 a week was higher than the average income of a middle-class family. Plus, Portia owed Chun Zhao a lot of money. Didn't you say that he's stingy? Yes, he's indeed stingy, but that doesn't stop him from paying me a high salary. It's all because of my ability, so he has to pay me. Portia clearly didn't want to continue talking about this. Oh, you just arrived in LA? Yes. So, I need to start my business as soon as possible. Zephyr nodded. If you're willing to tell me what you do, maybe I can introduce you to a few clients. Forget it. You can't help. Fine. It's fine if you don't want to. Portia could tell that Zephyra was intentionally avoiding the nature of her job. She didn't want to chase her new roommate away. But I think you should be a chef. Your food is really delicious. A chef doesn't make as much as my current income. You have a high income? Kind of. I'm also a high-income person. Zephyr smiled. Finance. The only possibility Portia could think of was finance. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.